Chapter 68. What exactly did you do? Han Ruoshue had been slapped in the face by TQ's editor. All she could do now was tuck her tail between her legs. She wished she could find a hole to hide in. Han Yufan looked at Tongning, who was walking in front of them, with a complicated look in his eyes. She must have known from the start that we tore up her invitation. So, no matter what we did, Tongning was always in the dark, watching our every move. How could she be so smart? Han Ruoshue could only blame Han Yufan for not doing his job well. Just wait and see. If we can't stop her today, we won't be able to stop her in the future. Mo Yuro looked at the siblings beside her, especially the arrogant Han Ruoshue. Her eyes flashed with ridicule. It wasn't that Tongning was too smart, it was that everyone underestimated Tongning and let their guard down, including herself. However, even if Tongning was working hard to climb up, it didn't matter. Since she had a way to lift the top 10 model award, she had a chance of beating Tongning. After all, she had already tasted the sweetness of the unspoken rules. The commotion they caused as they entered the venue quickly spread throughout the venue about Tianyi's failure to suppress Tongning. Han Yufan looked at the ridiculing looks of the guests and tried his best to control his anger. Afterwards, the group found their seats. According to their status in the industry, their seats were towards the back, temporarily hiding from the attention of the crowd and giving them some breathing space. However, what they didn't expect was, Tongning's seat was close to the second row of the stage. On her left was the editor of TQ and on her right was the judge of the annual model awards. This man was Mo Yuro's target. Why did Tongning always have such good luck? Although Tongning wasn't familiar with the man, Mo Yuro still felt flustered. She was feeling guilty. Yuro, what's wrong? My palms are sweaty. It's nothing, I'm just a little nervous. Mo Yuro gave Han Yufan a half-hearted smile. The Bright Night Gala was similar to the opening ceremony of the annual model awards. The venue was filled with celebrities and superstars. As there were many people from the entertainment industry who were also into fashion, there were quite a few people in attendance. Tongning focused on the host's opening speech. However, the judge sitting to her right was mesmerized by her legs. This Mr. Lee had always been known to be lecherous, otherwise, Mo Yuro would not have been able to take advantage of him. Worst of all, not only did he look at her legs, he even tilted his head towards her and said, "Miss Tang, you are so beautiful. I've seen the latest news about you. You are an extremely professional model, I have high hopes for you." After hearing this, Tongning knew he was hinting at something, so she simply responded politely, "Thank you for your compliment." TQ's editor looked at Tongning and patted her on the shoulder. "Take my seat, I have some questions to ask Mr. Lee." Tongning knew Lin Wei Sen was trying to help her out, so she smiled gratefully and swapped seats with him. In Lin Wei Sen's heart, Tongning was an extremely professional model with a bright future ahead of her. He didn't want Tongning to be involved in any negative news. Seeing Tongning not knowing what to do, the judge glared at her. They were obviously from the same agency. Why was Mo Yuro so easy to sleep with, while Tongning was so aloof? Wasn't she just an outdated model that had just climbed out of the limelight? Tongning continued to stare at the front of the stage, pretending not to know anything. But deep down, she knew she had offended this judge. Mo Yuro watched their actions from the back. She could tell the old pervert had his eyes on Tongning again. If Tongning chose the same path as her, then wouldn't she be stepped on by Tongning again? After all, if there was a shortcut to success, who wouldn't want to take it? Why did Tongning have to fight with her for everything? On stage, the host's witty words caused the guests to laugh. After the host finished his speech, the annual model awards ceremony was about to begin. At this time, the legendary mystery guest was about to make an appearance. Mo Ting. Mo Ting. Tongning repeated her husband's name in her heart. He was a superstar that no one could look up to. In fact, he was so dazzling that none of the other superstars present could match up to him. He attracted more attention than anyone else. Tonight, the couple would be on stage together in public, even though no one knew about their marriage. The next person to appear on stage. Just as the host spoke, a wave of screams erupted from below the stage. The host smiled and signaled for everyone to be quiet before continuing. He is even more popular than a superstar and is comparable to any of the popular superstars in the world. He is the CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment, Mo Ting. As the host finished speaking, Mo Ting walked onto the stage from backstage. Under the spotlight, his imposing figure appeared even more perfect and tall. Most importantly, his body exuded the aura of a king. It was like he was born to stand at a position that no one else could reach. It was intimidating. Mo Ting looked around and finally found Tongning below the stage. Their eyes met. Their feelings for each other were reflected in their eyes. But it only lasted for 2 seconds before Mo Ting looked away. "President Mo, please give a speech." The host gestured for Mo Ting to speak. Mo Ting's eyes flickered. The mole on his right earlobe glowed like obsidian. Hai Rui's doors are always open to the strongest. Mo Ting simply said one simple sentence, a simple sentence, but it told everyone one thing: Hai Rui only wanted the strongest artists. Plus, this was an affirmation of Hai Rui's artists. They were at the top because they had Hai Rui Entertainment behind them, an undefeated legend. Hearing these words, Tongning understood that Mo Ting was trying to encourage her. Only by becoming the strongest would she be able to stand wherever she wanted. "Hey, the color of President Mo's suit today is a perfect match for Tongning." The host had a deep impression of Tongning's suit. Especially since Tongning was sitting below them, it was even more obvious. Seeing Mo Ting also wearing a similar color, she couldn't help but sigh. Tongning didn't expect her name to be called out. After a few seconds of surprise, she quickly stood up and smiled. "It is my honor." Everyone knew Mo Ting hated artists that used underhanded methods to get ahead. So, with Tongning's outfit, did she purposely find out what Mo Ting was wearing to create hype? Plenty of people waited to see Mo Ting's reaction and to see Tongning make a fool of herself. Chapter 69. Don't tell me that model is the one that became famous because of the Oriental trend. Yes, it's her. She's relying on her good looks to get some ideas. Didn't anyone tell her that our president hates it when people take advantage of others to get ahead? Especially since she's using him to create hype. She must be tired of living. Let's wait for a good show. She's just a small character, but she's quite brave. Whispers could be heard from below the stage. Everyone was waiting to see how Tongning would be humiliated and how pitiful her fate would be. Han Yufan and the others couldn't help but feel a sense of joy. If Tongning offended the CEO of Hai Rui, it would be equivalent to being blacklisted by the entire industry. This was much more effective than anything they had done to suppress Tongning. This was a complete surprise. However, Mo Ting, who was on stage, knew better than anyone what they were thinking. He knew better than anyone that they were waiting to see Tongning get humiliated. But, sorry to say, the person being humiliated was his wife. How could he allow his wife to be treated like a joke? So, he simply smiled and said to everyone, "I hope an accident like this will happen a few more times. After all, Miss Tang is very beautiful." After hearing Mo Ting's words, everyone was stunned as they revealed expressions of disbelief. Because he did not try to suppress Tongning. Although his reply was gentle and polite, there was no trace of disgust or ridicule. He was seriously praising Tongning. Afterwards, everyone understood what Mo Ting meant. If Tongning had the chance to come into contact with his assistant or someone else, Mo Ting would not have shown her any mercy. This meant it was simply an accident, a beautiful accident and nothing more. As for Tongning, she didn't try to curry favor nor distance herself. This gave her a lot of credit and made everyone feel comfortable. She didn't try to explain herself, she simply smiled as she returned to her seat. Sitting down gracefully, she left a deep impression on everyone. Originally, everyone thought the matter was over. But Mo Ting suddenly spoke up again. "I remember Miss Tang, you were at Yi Hai's Crown Star show. I hope you can do your best." As soon as these words left his mouth, everyone was shocked. The video of him standing up for Tongning was still there, so it was impossible for him to deny that he knew Tongning. On top of that, the words wishing her all the best were said in an artistic manner. It was a signal to the public that Hai Rui had not extended an olive branch to Tongning. Because Hai Rui only wanted the best artists. But that didn't mean it was impossible in the future. With such a professional foundation and good interpersonal skills, her future was limitless. No one could predict where she would go in the future. Everyone in the fashion industry looked at Tongning with interest. Tongning looked at Mo Ting helplessly. He already promised not to interfere with her work, yet he still tried his best to raise her profile on stage like this. Mo Ting also looked at his wife. Today was the first time they had shared a stage together. He didn't know when the next time would be. So, what was wrong with saying a few words for his wife? Not to mention, he hadn't actually helped her much, he had simply said a few words of truth. The host really liked Tongning, she especially liked her uncompetitive attitude. On top of that, she had personally witnessed Tongning being suppressed by Tianyi. So, the female host made up her mind and made a bold request, President Mo, since such a coincidence has already happened, why don't we make things even more perfect? Why don't the two of you take a photo together? A photo together. The entire venue was in an uproar. This was a request that even Hai Rui's top stars and top actresses didn't dare to make. Did this host have a death wish? Another male host noticed the awkward atmosphere and immediately stepped forward to save the day. However, to everyone's surprise, Mo Ting once again agreed. I don't think I can reject this perfect request. Okay, in that case, let's welcome Miss Tang onto the stage. The host immediately smiled as he used the microphone to transmit his voice to every corner of the venue. Tongning looked around at her surroundings. Seeing everyone's envious gaze, she suddenly gathered her courage. She knew, no matter if she rejected or not, people would definitely gossip about her in the end. If that was the case, why would she miss out on the opportunity to take a photo with Mo Ting? So, she calmly stood up. Her footsteps were calm and steady, making it impossible to tell what she was thinking. Afterwards, she walked over to Mo Ting's side, looking elegant and proper. Looking at them, one was handsome and dignified while the other was gentle and elegant. They were indeed a perfect match. But, no one suspected they had any relationship because they both acted like gentlemen and merely nodded at each other. So, the artists present were more focused on Tongning's good luck. MPH, a mere artist, actually managed to take a photo with Mo Ting. She was too lucky. Just wait and see, this little artist was definitely going to use this opportunity to hype herself up tomorrow. Tongning, don't be shy, come closer. Hearing the host's words, Mo Ting stretched out his arm and wrapped his arm around Tongning's shoulder, pulling her close to him. Everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Tongning was also surprised by Mo Ting's actions. However, he simply lowered his head and glanced at Tongning as he teased, you can't get any closer. Otherwise, I will kneel on a washboard when I get home. The host revealed an extremely surprised expression, just like everyone else. So, Mo Ting already had a partner? He was indeed the secretive big boss of the entertainment industry. He sure kept it a secret. Tongning maintained her smile as she wondered if she would really make him kneel for 5 minutes when they got home. Although everything that happened tonight was within Mo Ting's control, the ups and downs that happened one by one were still too much for her to handle. The couple froze for a photo and then quickly separated. Tongning politely shook Missouri Ting's hand before being led back to her seat by the hostess. As for the judge that was teasing Tongning a moment ago, after the incident with Mo Ting, he no longer dared to have any strange thoughts towards Tongning. He was well aware that this model, she wasn't someone he could afford to offend. Even though she didn't seem like she wanted to fight for anything, in reality, she knew exactly what she wanted and which path she should take. On the other hand, only people like Mo Euro, who wanted to take shortcuts, would be played around by him and trampled on as he pleased. This was just a small interlude. After the photo, Mo Ting also returned to his seat. No one suspected the relationship between the two. However, many of the female celebrities present were heartbroken. Because Mo Ting already had a partner. Han Ruoxue watched the commotion in front of her silently before revealing a cold smile. Mo Ting can't stand people using him to create hype. According to Tongning's personality, she doesn't care about creating hype either. In that case, let's help her out tomorrow. Chapter 70. The Bright Night Gala was, in reality, a night of turbulence. Tongning once again destroyed Tianyi's plan to suppress her. Not only that, at this grand launch, as a newcomer, she shouldn't have been the center of attention. But, Because of Mo Ting and her own calm performance, she left a deep impression on everyone. Amongst them, there were a few pioneers in the fashion industry, including the CEO of Star Age, who had once tried to recruit her. Tongning. A model that Star Age had tried to poach multiple times, a model that had been blacklisted by Star King 3 years ago, and now, 3 years later, she announced her comeback. Along the way, she had been plotted against and suppressed, yet, she still managed to get to where she was today. She was even lucky enough to take a photo with the CEO of Hai Rui, Mo Ting. Regarding this, before the launch ended, the CEO of Star Age approached Han Yufan and said, "I've been trying to poach Tongning for 3 years, but she has never relented. But, after seeing what Tianyi has done to her, I feel I need to try again." Han Yufan looked at the tall and mighty man. Originally, he wanted to say this was an internal matter of Tianyi, but, thinking about all the years Tongning had spent in Tianyi, not only had she been loyal to him, but she had also missed out on so many opportunities. Han Yufan's mouth twitched, but he couldn't find the words to say. "When the time comes, don't regret it." Han Yufan remained silent. The other party was a management agency that was more powerful than him. But, at the same time, he was flustered. He had never imagined Tongning would actually leave Tianyi one day. It turned out, all this time, he had been enjoying his vanity. On one hand, he was seducing Mo Yuro, on the other hand, he was dragging Tongning along. He had never considered that Tongning was originally a piece of unpolished jade. Her patience, her dedication, and her sincerity would all come to an end one day. "Yufan, don't tell me your heart has gone soft." Han Ruoshue scoffed after seeing her brother's silence. "How could I?" Han Yufan hugged Mo Yuro as he replied stubbornly. However, the fear in his heart was slowly beginning to show. The night was bright, the lights were bright and the guests were busy toasting each other. The distance between him and Tongning was no longer just a few rows of seats. After the launch, TQ's editor introduced Tongning to all sorts of fashion resources as he led her around the guests. As they chatted, the editor couldn't help but ask, "Where's your manager? Can I get to know him? I feel that chatting with him is very congenial." After hearing Lin Weison's words, Tongning was stunned for a moment. So, she subconsciously turned her gaze towards the hall in search of Mo Ting. In the end, she spotted him clinking glasses with a group of successful people. As their eyes met, Mo Ting looked at her lovingly. It seemed to be asking, "What's wrong?" Tongning quickly shook her head. The couple understood each other. "I'm just looking for you." The corners of Mo Ting's lips curved upwards. He then turned his gaze back to the person beside him and continued chatting. Tongning withdrew her gaze and replied to TQ's editor, "He is currently overseas. Next time, I will definitely introduce him to you." "Alright, then I'll wait and see. He's right here," Tongning thought to herself. However, no one would believe that the CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment was her assistant right now. From the beginning, Han Ruoshue and the others sat in a corner and watched Tongning. Because of Tongning, no matter where they went, as soon as people heard they were from Tianyi Entertainment, they would give them a look that said, "So it's you, the idiot company that suppressed their own artists." Seeing Tongning in the limelight, they were probably regretting their actions. The Han siblings were too embarrassed to continue walking around, but this caused Mo Yuro to lose a lot of opportunities to meet new friends. "I want to go to the bathroom." Mo Yuro wanted to break free from the control of the siblings because she and Mr. Lee had already exchanged flirtatious glances a few times. "Go ahead." Han Yufan did not have the slightest suspicion towards the person sleeping beside him. Mo Yuro lowered her head and stood up. However, as she brushed past Mr. Lee, she purposely brushed the back of her hand against his. The two entered the bathroom one after the other. Not long after, inside the ladies' bathroom, sounds of flirtatious breaths could be heard. "After the annual Model Awards ceremony, I will be leaving Tianyi Entertainment. I want to join Creative Century." While Mo Yuro was doing this, she gave the other party a price tag. She understood, at times like this, men would lower their guard and guard to the lowest. "Okay," the man replied from behind her, "but, can you bear to part with your little boyfriend? He has always been a stepping stone for me to step on." "Haha. You sure are ruthless." The two stayed in the bathroom for half an hour before leaving. At this moment, Han Yufan and Han Ruoxue were in the middle of a conversation with the guests and did not notice her. Mo Yuro did not rush over to them, she simply sat to one side on her own and watched the commotion in the ballroom. After the Bright Night Gala, Tongning's value would definitely increase, but she still wouldn't be able to present an important award. Plus, Star Age was determined to recruit Tongning. If she could join Creative Century, the resources she would receive would be even better than Tongning's. When that time came, she was going to let Tongning have a taste of being stepped on and humiliated. Seeing Mo Yuro was quiet, Han Ruoxue returned to her side with a wineglass in hand. She sounded a little surprised. You don't seem to be such a low-profile person. What are you thinking about? Tongning has already stolen all the limelight, how can I compete with her? Mo Yuro laughed mockingly. I've already contacted the paparazzi to give her a free headline. I'm curious how Mo Ting will react after seeing this kind of hype. Han Ruoxue gently swirled her wine glass, her eyes did not leave Tongning for even a second. However, Han Ruoxue had no idea, the reason Mo Ting was able to keep a low profile had a lot to do with his complete control of the news. So, as soon as Han Ruoxue made the call, Mo Ting also received a recording of Han Ruoxue's phone call. The other party asked Lu Che what they should do. Since it involved Tongning, Lu Che didn't dare to make a decision on his own. So, he quickly walked over to Mo Ting and whispered into his ear. Mo Ting was silent for a few seconds before apologizing to the guests beside him. After entering the VIP lounge with Lu Che, he picked up the recording from the media and listened to it. I am Tongning. At the Bright Night Gala, I had an intimate photo with the CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment. Help me hype it up and add a more suggestive headline. I want the headline tomorrow, no matter how much it costs, I will pay for it. Chapter 71. The other party is very smart, they used a voice changer. So, from this recording alone, we have no idea who the culprit is, Lu Che explained. Lu Che explained. He was used to this sort of thing. After all, the industry was just that dark. It seems, he's an old hand. Tell the media to call the culprit back and try to get them to repeat the words on the recording. Be careful not to alert them. Find out who is on the phone at the same time. Follow them secretly and take the opportunity to collect evidence. Mo Ting hung up his phone, his eyes were unfathomable. Understood, President. Lu Che nodded his head as he turned and left with firm steps. At the same time, Mo Ting returned to the banquet. His sharp gaze swept across the Han siblings in the corner. In reality, he didn't even need to test himself to know that the only person capable of doing this was the experienced Han Ruoxue. If Han Yufan had thought of this, he would not be where he was today. Perhaps sensing Mo Ting's mood had changed, Tongning, who was happily chatting amongst the crowd, looked over suspiciously. Mo Ting suppressed the anger in his heart, pulled out his phone and simply said two short words, let's talk at home. In reality, Mo Ting had underestimated Tongning's sensitivity. After spending so much time with Mo Ting, she had long understood his temper. Under normal circumstances, Mo Ting's face would only turn black when it concerned her, only then would he feel it was worth getting angry at. Tongning also placed her gaze on the Han siblings, she had a rough idea of what was going on. Tonight, she had stood out too much and showed off too much. Although she knew there was a chance she would be shot in the back, she never expected the Han siblings to be so impatient. 10 minutes later, Mo Ting watched as Han Ruoxue stood up from her seat and took her phone to a hidden spot. Not even 5 minutes later, she quietly returned to her seat. At the same time, Lu Che hinted to Mo Ting that he had obtained the evidence. Sure enough, it was as expected. He had wanted to make a move on Han Ruoxue for a long time, but he couldn't find a suitable reason. After all, it was a family matter of Tianyi. Who would have thought, today, Han Ruoxue would take the initiative to offend him? After the banquet ended, Tongning left the venue with the editor of TQ as usual. Han Ruoxue and the others followed closely behind. Tongning could feel the hatred in their eyes. Not long after, the editor of TQ left early because he had something to attend to. Han Ruoxue walked up to Tongning and looked her in the eye. I've underestimated you. Even after dragging you around like that, you still managed to appear. However, Tongning, no matter how smart you are, you still made a huge mistake. You actually took a photo with the CEO of Hai Rui. Did you think you could use him to raise your own value? Let me tell you, you'll only make enemies for yourself. If there's nothing else, I want to go home and get some rest. Tongning did not take Han Ruoshua's words to heart. Did you really think you were Mo Ting's woman? You're just putting on a show. Do you really think you're something? Hearing this, Tongning suddenly turned around and looked at Han Ruoshua with a sharp gaze. Han Ruoshua, I really admire you for being able to maintain your jealous heart. With you around, Tiany's destruction is just around the corner. Han Ruoshua looked at Tongning with ridicule. Her expression was twisted. Every time she thought about the news that was going to be released the next morning, her heart would be filled with excitement. Tongning understood what Han Ruoshua was thinking. There had been countless times in the past when Han Ruoshua had a frivolous smile on her face as she waited to bully Tongning. She wanted to see Tongning's fate. However, she had never gotten what she wanted. So, this time it would be the same. Speaking of which, when are you going to leave Tiany? Han Yufan interrupted and asked Tongning in seriousness. Star Age has already tried to poach you so many times, why haven't you left? Haven't you had enough revenge? Because I want to see if you still have a shred of humanity left in you. After speaking, Tongning boarded the sports car Long Jie had sent to pick her up and left. At this moment, Han Ruoshua once again noticed Mo Yuro as she carefully scrutinized her expression. Why are you so quiet tonight? I'm not feeling well, Mo Yuro replied with a pale face. She was pregnant and had an affair, how could she not be in trouble? Then hurry back and rest. The awards ceremony is about to start, we can't afford to make any mistakes. Don't go to the hospital. Stay at home and get some rest. I understand, Ruoshua Jie. They should both get some rest. Otherwise, how would they have the energy to watch the show tomorrow? Late at night, Hyatt Regency. Tongning and Mo Ting did not go the same way. After the banquet ended, they were surrounded by artists and paparazzi. To avoid unnecessary trouble, they decided to go their separate ways. As Tongning's distance was shorter, she arrived first. As soon as Mo Ting stepped through the front door, she immediately handed him a set of home clothes so he could change into something more comfortable. She also prepared some medicine to sober him up. He must have drunk quite a bit at the banquet. What exactly happened? No wonder your gaze was so strange at the dinner. Tongning gently rubbed Mo Ting's stomach, trying to soothe his discomfort. What do you think? Mo Ting pulled her onto the sofa and handed her a recording and a video. Tongning was a little confused, but after looking at the two items, her expression remained calm. She couldn't help but sneer. From the looks of it, Han Ruoshua does have some tricks up her sleeve. It's a pity that it wasn't used on the right path. Don't get involved in this matter. Since it involves me, then I have no choice but to do what I can. Tongning understood what Mo Ting meant. In reality, he had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Now that he had the upper hand, from this moment on, Han Ruoshua's fate no longer belonged to her. Since you have the evidence, why are you still angry? I've already been schemed against so many times. Do you think I'll care if it happens more or less? Mo Ting took a deep breath and pressed Tongning's head into his embrace. I'm angry because my heart aches for you. Luckily, I have the ability to protect you. Tongning calmly wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's waist and tried her best to inhale his scent. She then pulled out her phone and showed Mo Ting the photo they had taken that night. Doesn't this look like a wedding photo? My wife is very beautiful. Mo Ting's gaze softened a little. He knew Tongning didn't want to make him worry, so even though she had been framed, he couldn't show it. Since he had the guts to make Tongning work so hard. Tomorrow, he was going to make Han Ruoshua pay him back 100-fold. Chapter 72. Han Ruoshua waited for Tongning to be attacked by Hai Rui because she knew how powerful Hai Rui was. However, because of how powerful Hai Rui was, she forgot about the person at the top of the entertainment pyramid. What kind of power did he have? If a king was so easily manipulated, how could he lead an entire empire? In reality, by taking a photo with Mo Ting had already agreed to everything that Han Rui would do, including creating hype. However, Han Ruoshue couldn't see through his intentions and was determined to frame Tongning. In reality, Mo Ting had purposely given her an opportunity to use Tongning's weakness to teach her a lesson. After all, Han Ruoshue's actions had always been within Tianyi entertainment. If he wanted to cause trouble for her, he needed a good reason. Because of this, Han Ruoshue was excited all night. However, the next morning, the news was completely different to what she had imagined. Breaking news. Tianyi's director meticulously planned to harm their artists. Han Ruoshue disguised herself as Tongning and tried to frame Tongning to create hype. Tianyi's internal strife. Tongning used Hai Rui to create hype? The various media outlets acted like they were possessed as they came up with all sorts of news headlines. They even revealed how Han Ruoshue tried to frame Tongning, but ended up coming home shorn. They even included a video of the incident. The whole incident originated from the fact that a top-tier magazine had collated the contents of Han Ruoshue's phone call to the media at the banquet. It revealed how she had disguised herself as Tongning and then tried to frame Tongning and use Mo Ting to create hype. If this was a matter of opinion and there was no evidence to prove Han Ruoshue was the culprit, then the following video was the final nail in the coffin. Although the video only showed Han Ruoshue's side profile from beginning to end, her face could not be denied. It was extremely recognizable. In the short 3 to 4 minute video, it clearly showed her pretending to be Tongning and talking to the media outlets to create hype, as well as various other matters. As soon as the video was released, Han Ruoshue had no way of dealing with her PR. The reports were overwhelming. Practically all the media outlets were mobilized. Plus, this incident involved the mysterious and low-key CEO of Hai Rui Entertainment. It was too difficult to dig up news about him. So, as soon as there was a slight movement, the media would go crazy and report it with all their might. In just a short 2-hour period, Han Ruoshue's viciousness was already known to everyone. I really couldn't tell that the water in the entertainment circle is so deep. Fortunately, the heavens will punish those who are despicable. I support Tongning. She has always kept a low profile, yet Tianyi treats their own artist like this. How heartless. Han Ruoshue loves acting so much, why isn't she an actress? What a first-class slut. I'm so pissed off. How could there be such a shameless woman? Is there anyone who wants to team up with me to beat her up? Inside Tianyi's CEO's office, Han Ruoshue was on the verge of breaking down as she looked at the crazy news online. The person being scolded today should have been Tongning. But now, a shocking reversal had occurred. Han Ruoshue's face was deathly pale and her entire body was trembling. Because of this report, she was on the verge of collapsing. Her ears buzzed as she listened to Han Yufan on the phone beside her ear. As she held onto her phone, her hands trembled. She couldn't help herself as she dialed the wrong number a few times. Tongning, is that you? Did you set me up? Han Ruoshue, you have it the other way around. You were the one that wanted to set me up. Tongning pointed out the truth calmly. Come out and help me clear my name. This was all your scheme, you wanted to set me up, it was all because of you. Han Ruoshue's voice was ear-piercing and sharp, it sounded cruel and broken. She was too angry, even through the phone screen, she really wanted to tear Tongning to shreds. But Tongning remained calm. Her calmness was like she was in control of everything and was waiting to see Han Ruoshue's fate. You already knew, didn't you? Tongning, I may be ruthless, but how much better are you compared to me? You are simply shooting arrows in the back, you are just one step ahead of me. Han Ruoshue, it's time for you to see a doctor. After speaking, Tongning hung up the phone. She then turned her attention back to the email she had received. Was this enough to anger her? Not to that extent. Compared to the torture she had suffered at the Han family home, what Han Ruoshue had suffered was nothing. How satisfying. That slut has finally shot herself in the foot. Long Jie danced beside her. Let's see how she'll survive in the industry from now on. There is no such thing as absolute black and white in the industry, don't be too happy yet, Tongning reminded Long Jie. If Han Ruoshue wants to clear her name, she can still do it. After all, there are plenty of companies that have tried to set up their artists, it's just that they haven't done it in public. Have you forgotten? Boss Missouri still hasn't said anything, that's right, It's already been a few hours, why hasn't he said anything yet? Tongning looked at Longjie and laughed. After a cat catches a mouse, will it immediately eat it? He had to play with her a little, he had to keep her on tenterhooks and make her unable to live. Han Ruoxue had tortured Tongning so many times and for so long. If Mo Ting didn't take this opportunity to get back at her, then he wouldn't be Mo Ting. Ayo, as soon as your big boss steps out of the house, he is like a king that no one can provoke. His black-bellied nature is one of a kind. Tongning maintained her smile, but her heart felt warm. The feeling of being protected and cared for could only be felt when she was with Mo Ting. As Mo Ting's closest lover, she would definitely give everything she had for him. Indeed. Tongning's guess was right. At this moment, Han Ruoxue couldn't move at all because she was too scared. The reaction online was intense and the netizens were furious. But, most importantly, Hai Rui had yet to make an official statement. Before they made an official statement, there were two possibilities. 1. Hai Rui didn't care about the news and Mo Ting didn't have the time to deal with a small character like her. 2. Hai Rui was currently making preparations. Han Ruoxue was leaning towards the first possibility. After all, there were too many people that wanted to use Mo Ting to create hype. He couldn't possibly have the time to deal with everyone. If this was the case, as long as Hai Rui didn't make a move, she still had a chance to make a comeback. This was the entertainment industry. That's right, she shouldn't despair just yet. Who knows, there might still be a chance for her to survive. However, just as she was filled with hope and thought she could be pardoned, Hai Rui's PR news was finally released. It was pinned at the top by Hai Rui. Chapter 73. It was just a few short sentences. Hai Rui will use all their power to ban Han Ruoxue both domestically and internationally. No matter how Han Ruoxue appears in the entertainment industry, if anyone dares to contact her, they will be going against Hai Rui and encouraging unhealthy practices in the entertainment industry. According to Hai Rui's understanding through the media, Tianyi's model, Tongning, has never tried to use this opportunity to create hype. In order to regain the artist's confidence in the industry, Hai Rui has decided to prove Tongning's innocence. As soon as this news was released, the entire entertainment industry was shaken. Hai Rui had never dealt with a situation like this so severely. Han Ruoxue was completely banned. In other words, Han Ruoxue could no longer survive in the entertainment industry, no matter what her identity was. The public began to speculate that Mo Ting was making an example out of her. He wanted to use the most ruthless method to tell everyone that in the industry, if anyone tried to use him to create hype, only death awaited them. Of course, this was only on the surface. Compared to the outsiders that were watching the show, the insiders were even more frightened. The reason why Mo Ting was able to stop Han Ruoxue from framing him was obvious. The mainstream media was under Hai Rui's control. Whether it was framing or creating hype, as long as it involved Hai Rui, they would be able to find out the truth and make the culprit fall beyond redemption. As soon as this announcement was released, Han Ruoxue was done for. Completely done for. But why wasn't Tianyi implicated? Everyone assumed Hai Rui was only targeting the parties involved. They were clear about their debts. But Tongning knew deep down, she was still an artist of Tianyi. If Mo Ting also announced that he was banning Tianyi, then her activities would definitely be affected. This man seemed to take care of everything. He had considered everything for her. Hai Rui is indeed a top entertainment company. They are fast, accurate and ruthless. So cool. That's why so many people are trying so hard to get into Hai Rui. Hai Rui has indeed provided a fair platform for everyone. Not only did they punish Han Ruoxue, they also cleared Tongning's name. A big company is indeed a big company. They have style and magnanimity. We all believe in Tongning. If she wanted to create hype, she wouldn't have put up with so much from Tianyi. I suddenly love Tongning so much. She is indeed an artist that has both talent and beauty and character. Han Ruoxue can go die. Good job, Hai Rui has put an end to the unhealthy practices in the entertainment industry. Han Ruoxue, go die. In an instant, Hai Rui's statement was published on every major media outlet. Many famous people even stepped out to express their support for Hai Rui and Tongning. Even so, Han Ruoxue wasn't pitiful enough. An insider revealed that Han Ruoxue had been blacklisted in the US, as well as all sorts of scandals about her. Anyone that had anything to do with her in the past stepped out to trample on her. This was called everyone kicking a wall when it was down. Han Ruoxue locked herself in her office the entire day. From the moment Hai Rui made their announcement, it was impossible for her to step into the entertainment industry again. This time, she had been completely destroyed. She locked herself in a dark corner without eating or drinking. However, her ears were filled with noises. At this moment, there were too many people who wished for her to die. "Sis, are you inside?" Han Yufan knocked on her door and said worriedly, "You haven't eaten for the whole day. If you continue like this, your body will collapse. If you can't be a manager, you can still find other jobs. Don't be so desperate." "Destroyed, everything is destroyed," Han Ruoxue mumbled. The Han family had never been a wealthy family. If she were to change careers, not only would she not have the ability, she was already used to wearing custom-made clothes and carrying limited edition bags. If she couldn't be a manager, she would have to return to a life of poverty. How could she let that happen? "Oh right, let me go beg Tangning." "Tangning." Han Ruoxue grabbed onto her last straw as she searched for her phone and gave Tangning a phone call. "Tangning, Tangning. I want to see you. If you have something to say it over the phone." Tangning rejected straightforwardly. "Please. I beg you, help me put in a good word. I don't want to leave the entertainment industry, I don't want to." At this moment, Han Ruoxue finally shed off her usual arrogant facade and became pitiful and pitiful. "I know, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have gone against you. I can kowtow and kneel to you, but can you let me live?" On the other end of the phone, Tangning let out a gentle laugh and asked straightforwardly, "If this morning, I had been the one being blacklisted by Hai Rui and not you, what would you have done to me? Would you have used Hai Rui to announce that they were going to freeze me? Or would you have used the opportunity to introduce a newcomer and mercilessly kicked me out of the agency?" Han Ruoxue, the reason you are apologizing now is because you are not willing to be caught in the act. You are not regretful. You are simply unhappy that you didn't manage to bring me down. Han Ruoxue, the debt you owe me has been repaid today. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Of course, that is, if you are honest. Han Ruoxue was speechless. Everything Tangning said was the truth. If their positions were switched and Tangning was blacklisted by Hai Rui, she would have already found someone to beat her up and kick her out of the agency. She wouldn't have even the slightest bit of sympathy. Han Ruoxue couldn't find any reason to convince Tangning to help her. In the end, she could only go to a hotel to get drunk. She had never thought that one day she would fall so miserably and hurt so much. Han Ruoxue was completely drunk at the nightclub. Seeing that she was defenseless, the men who frequented the nightclub took the opportunity to take advantage of her and almost booked a room with her. Luckily, Han Yufan arrived just in time to stop them. Otherwise, she would not have been as simple as being banned today. "Sis, you can go to England tomorrow. I've already booked a plane ticket for you. Even you are going to abandon me?" Han Ruoxue grabbed onto Han Yufan's shirt and sneered, "Are you afraid of being dragged down by me?" "Sis, I'm sorry. I have to look at the bigger picture. Tomorrow, the agency will publicly announce your dismissal." Han Ruoxue continued to sneer as she pushed Han Yufan away. "Don't make it sound so righteous. What do you mean by looking at the bigger picture? Everyone says I'm ruthless, but you, Han Yufan, are even more ruthless. You've taken advantage of others. As soon as something happens, you'll immediately turn your back on them. Did you think without me, Tianyi would return to normal? Let me tell you, by blacklisting me, Hai Rui has indirectly blacklisted Tianyi. The only one to benefit from this is Tangning. She is the only one that isn't affected. I should have known. Tangning has been with you for 4 to 5 years. How could you just throw her away like that? I thought my sister would be spared. It turns out, in your eyes, we are not as important as your interests. Did you think if I lose, Tangning would let you and Mo Euro off? I'm not leaving. Even if I am to leave, I will first wait and see what happens to you." Chapter 74. Han Ruoxue was right. From the entire incident of her framing Tongning, Tongning had benefited the most, followed by Hai Rui Entertainment. With Hai Rui's support, Tongning's fame had increased by a large margin and she had gained a lot of fans. At the same time, Hai Rui had solidified their position in the entertainment industry. It was like killing 3 birds with 1 stone. That night, Tongning returned home. Seeing Lu Che pacing back and forth in front of the door, she approached him suspiciously. "Lu Che, why aren't you coming in?" "Madam, you're back." As soon as Lu Che saw Tongning, it was like he had seen his savior. His eyes lit up. "What happened?" "The president isn't in a good mood today." "Why is it?" Tongning looked at Lu Che. She knew he was afraid of being scolded by Mo Ting, so she tried to comfort him. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. It's because of Hai Rui's announcement. The higher-ups don't think it's necessary to mention your name and help you gain more exposure. They don't agree with the president," Lu Che explained in seriousness. "Of course, they don't have the guts to stop the president, but..." Tongning's heart sank as she understood what Lu Che meant. "It's okay, I will comfort him." Even a small agency like Tianyi had its share of power struggles, let alone Hai Rui. Obviously, Mo Ting's authority as the emperor was being challenged and she was the fuse. After Lu Che left, Tongning calmed herself down and entered the house. Seeing Mo Ting standing by the window in the study room drinking, she gently approached him from behind and wrapped her arms around his waist. "President Mo, you don't seem very happy." "Did Lu Che blabber?" Mo Ting guessed. "It's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. In your heart, I am your wife, so it's normal for you to side with me. But, in the eyes of the staff at Hai Rui, I have nothing to do with you, so it's normal for them to have an opinion," Tongning explained gently. "That's not the root of it." Mo Ting turned around, put down his wine glass and pulled Tongning into his embrace. "Is it because someone is trying to seize power?" Thinking of this possibility, Tongning hugged Mo Ting even tighter. "You obviously know there are so many people eyeing your position, yet you still helped me in such a high-profile manner. Mo Ting, I won't allow you to do this. This time, I've made you unhappy, but what about next time? I know you already knew what was going on with Han Ruoxue and you've been waiting for this opportunity. The photo at the Bright Night Gala gave you this opportunity. But, Hai Rui's statement, you really don't need to help me clear my name. Don't do it again. Are you complaining that I'm being a busybody?" Mo Ting's eyes flashed with disappointment. Tongning was stunned for a second. She then grabbed onto Mo Ting's hand and placed it on her chest. She looked at him seriously and said, "This will hurt. Everyone knows you are like an unreachable king, but I am well aware that behind the king lies an abyss beyond redemption. How can I, Tongning, deserve this? Even if I were to accept your help, I would have to wait until the day everyone agrees with me. The entertainment industry is so dark. I can't just take it for granted that you're protecting me. When others shoot arrows at you, how can I sit back and do nothing? I might not be able to do anything else, but at least I can protect your heart." After hearing Tongning's words, Mo Ting was stunned. He was stunned and shocked. However, a second later, he suddenly grabbed onto Tongning's cheeks and wrapped his arm around her waist as he passionately kissed her. The reason why his feelings for Tongning grew deeper and deeper was because their souls were clashing. Thinking of this, his arms wrapped around Tongning tighter, until her lips were swollen and red from being sucked on. Afterwards, he regained his usual calm and confidence as he whispered into Tongning's ear, "I've realized I need to thank those old geezers for giving me the opportunity to hear your true thoughts. But, Ning, you've underestimated your man. In the entertainment industry, there's nothing I can't do. Do you think anyone that dares to challenge the king's authority will have a good ending? Then why were you unhappy a moment ago? You've been tricked by Lu Che." Mo Ting laughed. Tongning froze for a moment before she let out a gentle laugh. "It's good that he gave me a warning like this. At least I know your difficulties." After hearing this, Mo Ting smiled as he lifted Tongning in his arms and carried her into the bathroom. "I want you." Tongning blushed a little, but she still lifted her hands and helped Mo Ting unbutton his shirt. Seeing this, Mo Ting couldn't help but think back to the words she had just said. She wanted to protect his heart. So, he couldn't help but lift Tongning's chin and place a passionate kiss on her earlobe. "Not only do you need to protect my heart, you also need to protect my body. The white shirt was thrown to one side, overlapping with Tongning's printed A-line dress. As the clothes fell to the ground one by one, the couple stared at each other. They only had eyes for each other. Their passion was immediately ignited. Tongning was a model, so every part of her body was important. So, Moting never used too much force. Tongning could sense his restraint, so she hooked her arms around his neck and said, "I'm not a piece of porcelain that will shatter with one touch. Wifey, are you reminding me you want me to use more force?" Moting entered the depths of the bathroom and fulfilled all of Tongning's requests. After the couple made love in the bathroom, Tongning was so tired she fell asleep. Moting looked at Tongning's tired expression and gently leaned over to place a kiss on her lips. "With what you said, anything you ask me to do is worth it. No matter what you want to do, I will accompany you until the end of time." After the Han siblings had a huge argument, Han Ruoshue was nowhere to be found and Han Yufan had a gloomy expression the entire night. However, Mo Yuro didn't seem to care. She didn't try to comfort Han Yufan like she used to, she simply focused on watching the entertainment news. "Mo Yuro, haven't you been acting a little strange lately? Yufan, it's been so hard for me to carry a child. Do you really want me to get involved in the fight between you siblings?" Mo Yuro asked in disdain. "However, I don't think giving up on your sister is the right thing to do. After all, Tianyi is currently being suppressed by Tongning and she has been blacklisted by Hai Rui. You are simply doing what you should do as the CEO. How long has it been since you've been intimate with me?" Han Yufan asked Mo Yuro. Mo Yuro's recent behavior was quite different. In the past, she would always cling to his embrace and act coquettishly. But now, she was treating him like he didn't exist. "Yufan, the child is slowly growing up. I really don't feel well." Han Yufan thought of the child and did not say anything else. He simply stood up and headed for the bathroom to take a cold shower. It was normal for men to have needs, but Mo Yuro was obviously not normal. Chapter 75. After the Bright Night Gala, Tongning's reputation once again rose. However, her management agency continued to drag her down. The higher-ups of Tianyi were extremely unhappy with Han Yufan. They couldn't suppress Tongning, nor could they rope her in. They pointed out Han Yufan's incompetence. He couldn't even compare to the security guards at the entrance. That's why Tianyi Entertainment was in such a mess. There were also a few shareholders who expressed their desire to withdraw their shares because they couldn't see any hope in Tianyi Entertainment. Han Yufan was ridiculed by the shareholders. After returning to his office, he was so angry that he smashed everything on the floor. His hatred towards Tongning had reached the bone. Coincidentally, a few of the new models that Han Ruoshue had found had arrived at the agency to sign a contract. When Han Yufan saw the girl called Lan Yu, he immediately called out to her, "Have you ever walked a show before?" "Yes, I am the champion of the new model competition," Lan Yu replied respectfully. That's right, Han Ruoshue had previously discovered this girl at the model selection competition. "Then there's no need for any training." Han Yufan replied straightforwardly. He remembered, in order to work with Tongning, many companies would go through the management process. He was afraid of a contract dispute, so he had Tongning's resources in his hands. He decided to choose one and recommend Lan Yu. If the other party didn't agree, he would destroy the contract and make it impossible for Tongning to work with them again. "Lan Yu, I will appoint a manager for you. She will be in charge of your development." "Thank you, Mr. Han." After all, Lan Yu was only 16 years old. It was impossible for her to be as mature as Tongning. So, she still revealed a smile like a little girl. Seeing this, Han Yufan was a little dazed. Once upon a time, Tongning was also like this, but thinking of the Tongning today, Han Yufan wanted nothing more than to crush her. Looking at Lan Yu, Han Yufan's emotions were complicated. She was too similar to Tongning, so he couldn't help but feel angry. But, if he wanted to make a newcomer famous as soon as possible, he had to copy Tongning. Only then would he be able to take advantage of Tongning's popularity. "All right, you can leave now." Outside the door, Mo Yuro overheard the conversation between Han Yufan and Lan Yu. She immediately pushed open the door and asked Han Yufan, "Are you really going to use this fake?" I plan to give Tongning's resources to her so she can give it a try, Han Yufan explained calmly. Although Tongning is currently lacking in awards, her treatment and resources have already reached the standard of an A-grade model. How could you give such good resources to a newcomer that hasn't even officially debuted? Yufan, why didn't you give it to me? Mo Yuro became a little emotional. Think about it, I'm about to receive an award and I'm pregnant with your child. No matter what, you should protect me. Enough. At Tiany's regular meeting, the shareholders are already unhappy that I have been spoiling you. Han Yufan, you're really hypocritical. Is it because you found a woman younger than me that you plan to abandon your second woman? Mo Yuro suddenly sneered, your sister is right, you are a heartless person who prioritizes profit above all else. As long as you can achieve your goal, you can sacrifice anyone. Hearing Mo Yuro's words, Han Yufan suddenly revealed a self-mocking expression. Everyone has the right to say this about me, but you don't. Mo Yuro, I sacrificed Tongning for you. Then you should give me the resources you want to give to Lan Yu. Han Yufan looked at the greedy Mo Yuro. Seeing her completely disregarding her own situation, he suddenly felt like laughing. Are you going to be satisfied after I'm kicked out of Tiany? Mo Yuro was stunned. The two argued loudly. Meanwhile, outside the door, a tall figure was eavesdropping. Her childish face carried a look of ridicule as she walked downstairs and knocked on the door of Tongning's private resting room. Come in. Tongning's voice drifted out from the room. Every 2 days, she would come to the agency to look at the gifts from her fans and understand the situation at Tiany. Lan Yu pushed open the door and entered. Her expression was still a little timid. Seeing Tongning's calm and collected demeanor, she was momentarily distracted before replying, I am a model that just signed with the agency today. My name is Lan Yu. Tongning had a deep impression of her. I remember you. Han Yufan had found her to be a substitute. Can I discuss a deal with you? Were all 16 or 17-year-old kids this mature so early? Tongning couldn't help but smile. First, tell me what you want me to agree to. Actually, President Han has arranged for a manager to give me the resources that originally belonged to you. But, I know it's impossible for me to grab hold of this opportunity. Since you don't lack a runway, can you give this opportunity to me? I can report to you about President Han and Mo Yuro at any time. I don't need it, Tongning replied calmly. I'm already used to Han Yufan doing things like this. Even if he asked you to be my substitute and asked you to steal my resources, I would never do such a thing. Lan Yu was silent, her expression was a little disappointed. You are still young, I don't want you to get involved in an adult's battle. Of course, if you can successfully secure that runway show, then you are truly capable and I won't stop you. Right now, her runway shows and magazine covers were all chosen by Mo Ting. As for the partners that went through the proper procedures, they didn't understand the situation and were afraid to seek benefits. How could there be such a good deal? Thank you, Miss Tang. Lan Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Tongning smiled disapprovingly. She knew, for someone to know how to trade benefits at such a young age, how could she be so simple-minded? However, she remained calm and collected. She wanted to see what this 16-year-old kid could do. After Lan Yu left, Mo Yuro stormed into Tongning's waiting room angrily and glared at her with hatred. I never thought you would be willing to help a newcomer. Mo Yuro, you need to be careful. This Lan Yu seems even younger and prettier than you. If Han Yufan can abandon me because of you, then he can also abandon you because of her. Mo Yuro looked at Tongning's back and sneered, Tongning, the only reason you've gotten to where you are today is because you have someone backing you up, right? I've had my suspicions since a long time ago. It's like you've been using hacks all along the way. Don't tell me it's all because you have the ability to pull strings. The CEO of Star Age has already tried to poach you multiple times. You aren't necessarily clean. Why are you acting all innocent and virtuous in front of others? You said I bribed the judges. What about you? What did the CEO of Star Age promise you? Was his bed soft? Chapter 76. Tongning turned around. Her eyes contained a fearsome coldness as she stared coldly at Mo Yuro. Her gaze was filled with ridicule and disdain. Not everyone is like you, but Tongning couldn't be bothered to say these words. She knew, no matter what she said, Mo Yuro would always misinterpret it. At the door, Han Yufan looked at the two with a frosty expression, especially after hearing the last sentence. Was it really because of Star Age that Tongning got to where she was today? Han Yufan was not willing to give up, so he said coldly to Tongning, "Come to my office for a moment." Tongning stood up from her chair and followed behind Han Yufan. The two of them entered the office one after the other. Han Yufan bent over and placed his hands on the office table. Without turning his head, he questioned Tongning, "Is what Yuro said true? Do you have an unexplainable relationship with the CEO of Star Age?" "No," Tongning replied straightforwardly. "How dare you lie to me? That day at the Bright Night Gala, the CEO of Star Age personally told me that he had tried to poach you multiple times. Tongning, I can't believe you have been pretending to be innocent and virtuous in front of me. I can't believe I once felt guilty towards you. Since everything Mo Yuro says is true, then why are you asking me?" Tongning's voice was emotionless. When it came to Han Yufan, her heart was as cold as ice. "Good, very good. Tongning, you have been targeting me and Yuro at every turn. It turns out, you are the real expert at cheating." Han Yufan turned around, filled with hatred towards Tongning. He really wanted to know when Tongning had hooked up with the CEO of Star Age. Was it when they were still together? 3 years ago, Star Age had already tried to poach Tongning. 3 years, yet, because he was afraid of hurting her, he had been hiding Mo Yuro, bitch. Although Han Yufan had thought of these words countless times, this was the first time he had actually scolded her. In fact, it was right in front of Tongning. Tongning's eyes suddenly turned cold as she glared at Han Yufan. Slowly enunciating each word, she said, "Because of these 2 words, I swear I will speed up Tiany's destruction by 10 times. Han Yufan, not everyone is as shameless as you. Mo Yuro and Han Ruoshue couldn't do anything to you, but do you think I can't either? Half a month. I'll let you know what it's like to have nothing." Han Yufan looked at Tongning. As he watched her make a vow, he suddenly felt a little scared. After this period of confrontation, he already understood that Tongning was a person that wouldn't give up until she reached her goal. Above all, she didn't make a single move. No one knew what her next step was. Just when you thought you had her in your trap, she would miraculously turn the tables. Han Yufan regretted the words he had just said. But Tongning had already disappeared into the distance. He actually called Tongning a slut. He must have lost his mind from anger. Downstairs, someone from Star Age actually showed up to pick Tongning up. The CEO of Star Age had invited Tongning to dinner, but Tongning had rejected him the same way she had for the past 3 years. She didn't even give him a chance. "Sorry, President Ju, I have my own car." The man once again hit a wall. All he could do was watch as Tongning drove off into the distance. At this time, Lan Yu appeared out of nowhere and blocked the man's path with her arms wide open. Her expression and appearance were 70% similar to Tongning's. "If Tongning doesn't want to go, can I go instead?" Ju Yanqing furrowed his brows. This woman was too brave, she actually dared to block his car. But he couldn't deny that, although Lan Yu wasn't as professional and elegant as Tongning, she was young. Youth was an advantage. If he really couldn't poach Tongning, then picking up Lan Yu wasn't a bad deal. It was just that he had to invest a lot in the beginning. But he still wanted more from Tongning. On the way home, Long Jie noticed Tongning's expression was a little off and noticed something was wrong. She immediately asked, "What happened? Did Tongning get into an argument with those sluts again?" Sluts. Hearing these 2 words, Tongning was reminded of Han Yufan's insults from a moment ago. It seemed she had been too gentle towards Tiany. Luckily, the awards ceremony was just around the corner. If she didn't destroy Mo Yuro, then her surname wouldn't be Tang. Although the past was in the past, what Han Yufan and Tongning owed her, she was not going to go easy on them. She was going to get them back. Seeing Tongning's gloomy expression, Long Jie did not probe any further. She simply escorted Tongning back to Hyatt Regency and told her to get some rest. After all, TQ magazine's shoot was about to start, so she needed to rest up. By the time she arrived home, Mo Ting was already there. Beside his hand was a few drafts of their collaboration plans. Without exception, they were all for her. Looking at Mo Ting's handsome and charming face, Tong Ning took a deep breath. She already had such a good person by her side, she couldn't expect everything to go smoothly. So, she tried her best to calm herself down. "What are you looking at?" Tong Ning asked as she walked over and sat down beside Mo Ting. "I'm helping you choose the most suitable management agency. Although I can help you, no one has stepped forward to negotiate with you. So, after leaving Tianyi, you need a better and stronger team," Mo Ting explained before placing one of the contracts in front of her. Tong Ning thought Mo Ting would ask her to join either Star Age or Creative Century. But, Mo Ting actually pushed Cheng Tian's name in front of her. Although Cheng Tian wasn't considered a leading entertainment agency and was still quite a distance away from top companies like Hai Rui and Star King, it was still considered top-notch within its industry. Above all, Cheng Tian had a wealth of experience in creating international models. However, according to Tong Ning's current status, going to Cheng Tian seemed like she was trying to climb up the social ladder. "Did someone from Cheng Tian send me an invitation?" "No, it's up to you to fight for it. There will be an interview soon. When the time comes, I'll take you to try it out." Tong Ning nodded her head. She never had any objections to Mo Ting's plans. It was just Mo Euro wanted to join Creative Century and Lan Yu was trying their best to steal Star Age from Tong Ning's hands. However, Mo Ting wasn't interested in either of these companies. He wanted Tong Ning to join the higher-tier Cheng Tian Entertainment. If she succeeded, by the time the news was announced, there would be another bloodbath. Thinking about Mo Ting's good intentions, Tong Ning held onto Mo Ting's hand and intertwined her fingers with his. "You have to deal with company matters during the day and at home at night, you still have to help me look after my books. Aren't you tired?" "But, no matter how tired I am, I don't want to see you suffer. I can't let my wife suffer." Mo Ting placed a kiss on Tong Ning's lips. "Does the way I am, you single-handedly created me." Tong Ning suddenly remembered, Mo Ting had been supporting her from behind the scenes. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Mo Ting had created her. "Wifey, I'm waiting to be your personal manager." Mo Ting smiled. Chapter 77. Being her personal manager was Tong Ning's dream and goal. But, seeing how tired Mo Ting was, Tong Ning rubbed his shoulders and noticed his muscles were tense. Her heart ached as she remembered she would be going to France in a couple of days. So, she immediately mentioned to Mo Ting, "In a couple of days, I will be going on an outdoor shoot. Do you want to come with me?" "Where will it be?" "In France. You work so hard. I don't want you to be so tired." "Ting, let's make a deal. As long as I go to a country, you will accompany me. That way wherever I go, your footprints will be there." Mo Ting was silent for a moment. In the past, he had also been rushing around the world, but he had always been busy with work. He had never thought of stopping to rest. At the same time, accompanying Tong Ning to work would also allow him to relax. Most importantly, Tong Ning was the most beautiful scenery in the world and he could stay by her side to take care of her. Just the thought of it made him feel good. So, he nodded his head. "I'll listen to you. I'll get Lu Che to arrange it." Tong Ning was satisfied. She then turned her attention back to Cheng Tian Entertainment's profile. Whether it was for herself or Mo Ting, she was going to give it her all. A few days after the Han Ruoshua incident, news of a male actor taking drugs was released online. In an instant, it became the focus of the netizens. Due to the various award ceremonies being held at the end of the year, the industry was filled with infighting and competitors exposing each other. The annual Model Awards ceremony was just around the corner. Tong Ning was only a guest presenter, so she didn't have to worry about other people plotting against her. However, Mo Euro was used to being arrogant and domineering. Now that she was going to win the top 10 model awards, how could she not make a move? "Tong Ning, do you still remember what day tomorrow is?" On the way to TQ headquarters, Long Jie suddenly asked. Tong Ning flipped through the magazine in her hands and replied without lifting her head, "Han Yufan's birthday. Do you need to do something about it?" Long Jie asked. "If you have the money, you might as well do some charity," Tong Ning replied calmly. "Yesterday, She had said such harsh words in front of Han Yufan. Perhaps, Han Yufan would treat it as a joke and laugh it off. Little did he know, the awards ceremony would be the end of Mo Yuro's modeling career. You're right. Then let's just let him die this year. Long Jie smiled from ear to ear. Every time she thought about how Tongning had tried her best to celebrate Han Yufan's birthday in the past, only to be stood up by him, her heart ached. Luckily, Tongning had already come to her senses. Also, I'm sure you won't be able to stay at Tianyi any longer. It's only a matter of time before you terminate your contract. What are your plans? I heard that the newcomer Han Yufan found stabbed you in the back and stole Star Age's contract. Tongning, what do you and Big Boss think about it? Are you going to sign with Star Age or Creative Century? Neither, Tongning replied calmly. Mo Ting wants me to go to Chengtian. Long Jie froze for a moment before laughing. Big Boss believes in you, and so do I. As for the resources that Lan Yu and Mo Yuro have their eyes on, they are all resources that Mo Ting has already eliminated. If they want to snatch them, they can go ahead and snatch them. For me, there is no loss at all. Tongning flipped through the pages of the magazine, but Long Jie did not miss the sharp glint in her eyes. Those two people were still feeling smug, thinking they were capable enough to snatch something from Tongning's hands. In reality, Tongning didn't even look at them. Chengtian Entertainment was the place that Tongning wanted to go to. She was originally a superstar, so it was normal for her to be promoted step by step. TQ Magazine's shoot was scheduled to start in 2 days, but Lin Wei-sen had asked Tongning to drop by the headquarters. Tongning had a few guesses in her heart, but when Lin Wei-sen told her that he was inviting her to attend a French fashion show and walk the opening of Luxury, she was so surprised that she froze. Tongning, actually, for TQ's October issue, I was planning to use your appearance on the cover. This is a rare opportunity for you and will be a great help in your return to the international scene. This was suggested by your manager, who has never shown his face before. I think he is right, you have the talent. So, I am willing to recommend you. Consider it as me fulfilling the promise I made to the media at the Bright Night Gala. Tongning looked at Lin Wei-sen, not sure what to say. She knew, TQ's shoot would be the most important turning point in her comeback. And, this turning point was given to her by Mo Ting. Don't get too excited. If you really want to thank me, then show me your most professional attitude. The best resources are only given to the best models. Tongning held back her tears as she gave Lin Wei-sen a hug and nodded her head. I will definitely not disappoint. Your current agency is too complicated, so I will keep the news under wraps for now. Thank you, Chief Editor Lin. The harder you work, the luckier you will be. This is the saying that suits you. Tongning smiled. She was grateful to the man. This was the type of person she was. She would take revenge and repay kindness with kindness. Returning to the international runway. This was something Tongning had never even dreamt of. But now, she finally had the chance. While Mo Yuro was trying her best to seduce the judges, while Lan Yu was trying her best to hook up with the CEO of Star Age, she had once again found herself a crucial chess piece. Of course, this was all because of the Mo Ting that doted on her. She worked hard, but she was even luckier because she married the best husband in the world. Han Yufan had no idea, Tongning's status had risen another level. Tianyi's office. Han Yufan was watching a video of Lan Yu's audition. This was originally Tongning's resource, but the other party did not seem angry. It seemed, he was quite satisfied with Lan Yu's performance. Mo Yuro sat beside him and sneered. Lan Yu was merely a small character, yet she managed to take over Tongning's project and receive the attention of the entire Tianyi. Yuro, do you know what day it is tomorrow? Han Yufan suddenly turned his head and asked the woman beside him. Mo Yuro thought for a moment as she suddenly felt nervous. Tomorrow was the day she was supposed to meet Mr. Li in private. Why did Han Yufan suddenly ask her this? Did he already know? No. That's impossible. If he knew, he wouldn't have used such a tone. Yufan, it's not like you don't know. I've been having a lot of reactions to my pregnancy and my memory isn't good. You should have just told me. Mo Yuro used the child as an excuse. Tomorrow night, I've booked a room at Champagne Hotel. Let's have a big celebration. Champagne Hotel? Mo Yuro suddenly felt nervous. That was the place she had previously had an affair with Mr. Lee. Tomorrow night was also booked there. Plus, because she was nervous about being discovered, she completely forgot about Han Yufan's birthday. Chapter 78. The next morning, as Han Yufan and Mo Yuro walked into his office, Han Yufan's desk was filled with birthday presents. Mo Yuro glanced at them and realized she had forgotten about Han Yufan's birthday. In the past, on Han Yufan's birthdays, she would always come up with a few tricks to make Han Yufan stay, making Tongning wait like a fool. But things were different now. After experiencing the joy of cheating, Mo Yuro realized there was no turning back. Yufan, I haven't been feeling well for the past few days, so I haven't prepared a present for you. Mo Yuro took the initiative to climb onto Han Yufan's shoulder. Her slender fingers circled around his chest. She knew this was Han Yufan's weakness. As expected, Han Yufan held onto her right hand and showed his generosity. I know your pregnancy has been tough. But tonight, you need to make it up to me. His flirtatious words entered Mo Yuro's ears. Han Yufan's hot breath also entered her earlobe. Mo Yuro smiled shyly and nodded her head. Okay. After all, they still had a few years of feelings between them. It was impossible for her to completely ignore it. But, thinking about how Tongning might grab hold of this opportunity to get back at Han Yufan, she felt a sense of pride. Even if she didn't want it, she couldn't let Tongning get it back. So, she decided to cancel her date with Mr. Lee and spend the night with Han Yufan. Yufan, do you think Tongning's belongings are mixed in with all these presents? In reality, Han Yufan had already guessed this before. Would Tongning still care about his birthday? In the past, on this day, Tongning would always try her best to prepare a present for him. But he would always stay by Mo Yuro's side and make her wait the entire night. At that time, he felt like Tongning would forever be in his hands. I'll go have a look. Mo Yuro was determined to humiliate Tongning, so she flipped through the pile of presents. In the end, she was disappointed. It seems, the slut has learned her lesson. But, Yufan, it's been a while since we've had a meal together with our colleagues. Why don't we call Tongning over for lunch? Han Yufan understood her motive. His eyebrows furrowed slightly, but he still nodded his head. Give her a phone call. Mo Yuro smiled gently as she pulled out her phone from Han Yufan's pocket and gave Tongning a call. Tongning, today is Yufan's birthday party. Do you want to come? Mo Yuro asked sweetly like a winner because she was using Han Yufan's phone. Oh, our Tongning isn't free, she is currently filming a TQ film. Long Jie's cheerful voice came through the phone. Are you busy or afraid to come? Miss Mo, I know you want Tongning to watch the two of you flaunt your love, but Tongning doesn't have the time to celebrate a random person's birthday. You don't have a job, but her schedule is full. You. Long Jie sneered. She did not continue speaking to Mo Yuro as she directly hung up the phone. Seeing the smile on Long Jie's face, Tongning also smiled back. She was treating this gathering as Tianyi's last party. That night, Han Yufan and Mo Yuro entered Champagne Hotel together. Han Yufan was unconscious from drinking too much, so Mo Yuro placed him on the bed and helped him remove his shirt. At the same time, she received a phone call from Mr. Lee. Mo Yuro nervously rushed into the bathroom to pick up the phone. Mr. Lee, didn't we agree not to meet tonight? Do you still want your contract with Creative Century? I am in room 3029. Hearing the words Creative Century, Mo Yuro's heart raced. This was an opportunity she had waited so long for, she couldn't let it go like this. Plus, Han Yufan was currently dead drunk, he shouldn't have noticed where she had gone, right? After weighing the pros and cons, Mo Yuro did not hesitate. After comforting Han Yufan, she boarded the elevator to the 30th floor. However, she never expected Han Yufan to be awake in the middle of the night. Sensing Mo Yuro was not in the room, Han Yufan immediately sat up and called Mo Yuro on her phone. However, Mo Yuro did not pick up. It was the middle of the night, where could she go? Afterwards, he asked the counter and went to the surveillance room, afraid Mo Yuro was in danger. However, when the hotel pulled up the surveillance footage for him, he discovered Mo Yuro had gone to the 30th floor and sneakily entered room 29. Mr. Han, Do you want us to send someone to help you look for her? The hotel security asked Han Yufan. No need. Han Yufan's face turned pale. Although he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he could already guess what was going on. So, in a place where no one could see, he clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. Normally, the hotel was secretive. A scene like this was nothing to them and they didn't dare to expose it to the public. But, they had been caught red-handed. Everyone looked at Han Yufan sympathetically. The humiliation made Han Yufan's heart feel like it was going to explode. Mr. Han, are you okay? Han Yufan's face was pale and his legs were weak. However, he maintained his composure and walked out of the control room step by step. Then, he took the elevator to the 30th floor. He didn't know how he managed to knock on the door of room 29. He disguised himself as a hotel staff and waited until the door opened and Mo Yuro appeared in her pajamas. He threw a slap across the face like an enraged lion, causing Mo Yuro to fall to the ground. Meanwhile, the man that Mo Yuro had been having an affair with was lying on his side, sleeping soundly. Yufan. Yufan, don't offend him. You can't offend him. Mo Yuro grabbed onto Han Yufan, forcefully pushed him out of the room and closed the door. Get lost. Han Yufan pushed Mo Yuro away angrily. His tall figure quickly disappeared down the red carpet. Mo Yuro fell to the ground, her eyes were filled with fear and trembling. Because all of this happened too quickly and too suddenly, after quite some time, the room door opened and Mr. Lee helped Mo Yuro into the room. He then comforted her. What do you want a man like that for? After all, you are about to leave Tianyi and the top 10 model award is yours. It doesn't matter if you fall out now. As for that Tongning, she is so noble and virtuous. Do you think she can survive? Sooner or later, she will be stepped on by you. Hearing these words of comfort, Mo Yuro slowly calmed down. It was the truth. Han Yufan, it's all your fault for being useless. Don't blame me for being heartless. But, he has something on me. Babe, exposing it won't do him any good. If he's smart, he will obediently keep his mouth shut. Mr. Lee sneered. However, he was going to find someone to clean up the mess tonight and erase all the hotel records. Chapter 79. After Han Yufan left the hotel, he dragged his heavy body and wandered on the busy street. It turned out, this was how it felt to be betrayed. Shame, embarrassment, humiliation, despair. Thousands of different feelings intertwined into a web. For Mo Yuro, he had given up everything. Even Tongning had been exhausted. Yet, he ended up like this. Captured. Raped. In bed. It turned out, his sincerity, in Mo Yuro's eyes, was just an act. It turned out, when Tongning found out about his affair with Mo Yuro, this was how she felt. She wanted to crush Mo Yuro to pieces, she wanted to skin her alive and pull out her tendons. Yet, she couldn't vent her anger. This was his sacrifice, his youth. For Mo Yuro, he had abandoned Tongning, abandoned Han Ruoxue, he had given up everything he had. Yet, all he got in return was Mo Yuro making love to someone else in bed. That kind of unspeakable pain seemed to suddenly take root in his heart. Furthermore, it was able to erupt with anger and other messy fruits, completely swallowing him up. 3 years of love, in the end, was actually nothing. Tongning. He had also treated Tongning the same way. Thinking of Tongning, Han Yufan also thought back to the humiliation and punishment he had given her. If this was the cruelest retribution in the world, then at this moment, he felt he was better off dead than alive. Han Yufan knelt on the ground and collapsed on the street. This kind of humiliation was something he would only experience once in his life. Finally, Han Yufan gave Tongning a phone call and calmed down. Tongning, can you come back? On the other side of the phone, Tongning was packing their luggage. Hearing Han Yufan's question, she was a little surprised. What do you mean? Come back to me. I will give you the best. Tongning stopped what she was doing. Her eyes were filled with ridicule, but Han Yufan couldn't see this. I will fight for what I want. I don't need you anymore. President Han, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Can you not leave Tianyi? Tongning did not respond. She directly hung up the phone and continued to pack her luggage. In reality, she had already guessed that something must have gone wrong between Mo Yuro and Han Yufan. She thought she would be looking forward to this moment. But this wasn't what she wanted. Han Yufan's turning back wasn't because he was truly remorseful, but because of the possibility of being betrayed. A moment later, Mo Ting closed the documents and returned to the bedroom. Seeing Tang Ning standing by the bedside in a daze, he stretched out his arms and pulled her into his embrace. "Sorry, I was busy until late." Tang Ning wrapped her arms around Mo Ting and tried her best to absorb the warmth from his body. "You are doing this to make time to go overseas with me. What happened?" Mo Ting sensed the slight change in her tone. This was a tacit understanding that they had slowly developed between husband and wife. Although Tang Ning wasn't normally a person of many words, Mo Ting could still sense the change in her emotions from her expression. "I'm guessing Han Yufan and Mo Yuro have already fallen out. It's just that I suddenly have a feeling that I'm trying so hard to differentiate whether I'm trying to take revenge on them or for myself. Now I understand that it's important to make them pay the price, but, more importantly, I want to stand by your side." Mo Ting gently stroked her hair, silently comforting her. He then lifted her in his arms and placed her on the bed. "Be good, close your eyes. Tomorrow, we are going overseas. I will be by your side." Tang Ning peacefully closed her eyes and fell asleep in Mo Ting's arms. Deep down, she knew, the day she returned to China, would be the day she dealt with Mo Yuro. However, the next morning, before Tang Ning could board the plane, Creative Century released a rumor that the other model they had been fighting over at Tianyi wasn't Tang Ning. Everyone began to speculate that Creative Century had repeatedly been rejected by Tang Ning, so they decided to use this method to regain their pride. As for the other model, it seemed, it could only be Mo Yuro. Was Mo Yuro going to make a comeback again? Did she want to steal a contract from a big agency that belonged to Tang Ning? Bitch. She didn't deserve it. Netizens snorted in disdain. They didn't dare to compliment Mo Yuro's character. If Creative Century actually dared to sign her, who knew how many connections she had, how many tricks she had used and how many higher-ups she had slept with. However, this didn't stop Mo Yuro from appearing on the trending topics. "Tang Ning, do you want me to find out what exactly is going on?" Long Jie looked at the news and felt uncomfortable. What Mo Yuro wanted to do was her own business, but she didn't like the way Mo Yuro used Tang Ning to create hype. "This might not be a coincidence," Tang Ning replied calmly. "Long Jie, I have a feeling Han Yufan and Mo Yuro have fallen out. If this is the case, you need to make sure Mo Yuro has an abortion. At the very least, you need to keep her safe until after the awards ceremony." Long Jie froze for a moment before nodding her head. "I understand. I will think of a way. No matter what happens between her and Han Yufan, since she owes me, I will make her pay." At the same time, Han Yufan also saw the news online. His handsome face turned frosty. It seemed Mo Yuro had really slept with a big shot. That's why she was able to bring home the top 10 model awards and was even able to successfully join Creative Century. She wants to leave just like that. How could it be so easy? Just as Han Yufan was about to make a move, Mo Yuro pushed open his office door as usual. She looked tired and her eyes were red and swollen. "What are you doing here?" Han Yufan's voice was a little hoarse. It seemed he was trying his best to control himself. "Yufan, I am here to beg for your forgiveness." Mo Yuro suddenly burst into tears. Her eyes were filled with grievance. "But, I really have no choice. That man has his eyes on me. He used you and Tianyi to threaten me. I have no choice. Can you give me 5 minutes to explain?" Han Yufan looked at Mo Yuro with ridicule like he was looking at an enemy. "Did you think I would believe your words? Didn't you already join Creative Century? What? How could you be interested in my small agency? Mo Yuro, you really disgust me." Mo Yuro saw Han Yufan had no way out, so she immediately held back her tears and smiled coldly. "Who can you blame for this? If you had the ability to protect me, if you had the ability to step all over me, I wouldn't have to go down this path. I've been your lover for 3 years. But, what have you given me? All you've given me is a crushing defeat. Han Yufan, don't forget, I still have your child in my stomach. What do you plan to do with this child?" Chapter 80. Mo Euro wanted Han Yufan to personally say that he had aborted the child. She wanted him to voluntarily give up on their relationship. Deep down, she understood that after being with Han Yufan for so many years, it was impossible for her to completely cut off all ties. All those secrets from the past had now become leverage. If any one of them came out of Han Yufan's mouth, she would be consigned to eternal damnation. However, Han Yufan stared at Mo Euro in silence. It was like he was trying to see through her soul. Of course, I will give birth to it. This is my child. I've done so much for this child. Did you think I would give up so easily? Mo Euro, let me tell you, if you dare to abort my child, I will do whatever it takes to destroy your reputation. Han Yufan's words were deep and vicious, carrying a strong sense of warning. Did Mo Euro really think she could get rid of him and Tianyi so easily? How could it be so easy? Mo Euro looked at Han Yufan in a daze. She thought, according to Han Yufan's temper, there was no way he would allow the child to exist. But he actually wanted her to keep the child. If she kept the child, how was she going to sign with Creative Century? The news was so heated up. If she couldn't abort the child, how was she going to explain herself to Mr. Li and the people at Creative Century? Han Yufan looked at Mo Euro's speechless expression and his lips curved into a sneer. She had betrayed him, yet she wanted to get away with it. He wanted to see what more disgusting things Mo Euro, who was in a difficult position to back down, could do. Thinking of this, Han Yufan was once again reminded of Tongning. How she felt in the past, how she felt in the past. At this moment, he understood everything. It turned out, being betrayed by someone could be so hateful and want them to die. Afterwards, Han Yufan pulled out his phone and gave Longjie a phone call right in front of Mo Euro. Send me Tongning's schedule in France, I will book a plane ticket for tonight. On the other end of the phone, Longjie froze. Han Yufan actually wanted to come to France. It seemed, he was indeed dreaming of getting Tongning back. Seeing Longjie remain silent for a long time, Han Yufan's voice became colder and fiercer. Longjie, I am still the CEO of Tianyi and Tongning is still my artist. I have the right to know her work schedule. In reality, Tongning had already heard Han Yufan's voice through the phone. So, she replied, send it to him. But, Tongning shook her head, reminding Longjie that there was no need to clash with Han Yufan. Longjie nodded her head and replied unwillingly, I will send it to your phone immediately. Afterwards, she hung up the phone and looked at Tongning confusedly. You were supposed to accompany Big Boss. Why did you agree to Han Yufan's request? Can't you tell? With Mo Euro by his side, he just wanted to provoke her. With Creative Century eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey, did you really think he would come over? Don't worry. Plus, we didn't stay in the hotel we originally booked, Tongning explained as she packed Mo Ting's clothes. After hearing this, Longjie relaxed as she sent Tongning's schedule to Han Yufan. Alright, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. You can spend some time with the big boss first. Longjie blinked as she left the exhausted couple alone. She then turned around and returned to the hotel arranged by TQ. A moment later, Mo Ting came out of the shower wearing only a white towel. Tongning quickly stood up to help him dry his hair as she leaned her body against his and asked for his opinion. Do you want to get some sleep first, or do you want to go for a walk with me and watch the sunrise on the beach? Of course, I want to watch the sunrise, Mo Ting replied gently. In reality, from the moment he took over Hai Rui, he had never felt so relaxed before. Because, Tongning had never asked him to handle any work. Tongning smiled as she pulled out the clothes she had prepared and helped Mo Ting put them on. She then intertwined her fingers with his. The couple stayed in a villa by the sea. The surroundings were very quiet. Tongning changed from her model look and wore a yellow A-line dress and a straw hat. She even had a video camera around her neck. Mo Ting held onto her the entire time as they walked barefoot on the beach. The sound of water filled their ears as the sun began to rise from the horizon. The couple sat side by side on the beach as they admired each other's perfect side profile. Tongning couldn't help but lift up her camera and take a photo of Mo Ting's side profile. Mo Ting turned his head and smiled at her. He then pulled her in his arms and took a selfie for the couple. I don't think we should keep a photo like this. What if the paparazzi find it? Tongning said as she looked at the photo regretfully. Of course we can keep it. Mo Ting hooked his arm under her chin and kissed her passionately. This is a footprint that belongs to both of us. Be careful, there are people around. How are we supposed to find people at this time? Mo Ting laughed as he looked at her and continued to kiss her. Their tongues danced together as an indescribable sweetness filled his heart. Watching the sunrise with the person he loved and accompanying the person he loved for a walk on the beach, everything around him seemed to have frozen in time. He wished the sun would rise a little later. Unfortunately, Luxury's show was scheduled for the morning and Tongning played an important role as the opening model. After making out on the beach, the couple tidied up a little and headed to the fashion show. Tongning looked at the foreign faces and was suddenly reminded of the time when she was 18 years old and struggling in France. She was still nervous, but she was no longer a naive girl. It was because of her calmness that the makeup artist looked at her in a different light. Luxury's show is filled with newcomers. It seems, you are the only one that doesn't have stage fright. Tongning smiled and turned to look at the other models. By the way, the opening model was originally booked to be an Asian model, but because she was too nervous, she decided to change it to you. She's over there. The makeup artist gestured for Tongning to look to the left. She saw a woman in her early 20s sitting on the sofa in a defeated manner. She has now become a substitute. Tongning glanced at the model. She didn't seem to have any impression of her. She then changed her clothes and sat quietly in her chair. Through the mirror, Tongning looked at herself. This show was related to whether or not she would be able to present an internationally influential report before her interview with Cheng Tian. So it was extremely important to her. It was related to whether or not she would be able to skip over Creative Century and Star Age and step on everyone else's heads. Luckily, Mo Ting was also present. Just thinking about it made her feel warm and fuzzy. Not too far away, a figure glared at Tongning with hatred. She didn't want to give up on the opening show. She was pushed away by Tongning. Of course, she recognized Tongning. She had recently become slightly popular in Beijing. But what right did she have to steal someone else's work? She was just an old model from a small agency. Chapter 81. Behind the young woman stood her manager, a woman wearing black-framed glasses. She crossed her arms across her chest and looked at Tongning with a sharp gaze. Of course, she was aware that Tongning had tricks up her sleeve. Otherwise, an outdated model that had been banned by Star King would not have been able to compete with Mo Euro and get to where she was today with an absolute advantage. But she had actually managed to snatch an artist from Cheng Tian. If this wasn't stopped soon, Tongning's threat would only get bigger and bigger. Of course, the manager had no idea that Tongning's next goal was to enter Cheng Tian. The manager looked at Tongning and used her contacts to find out how Tongning had managed to secure a spot in Luxury's opening show. It turned out, it had something to do with Lin Wei-sen. He was quite a character. But, since Tongning had entered the industry, she could forget about climbing the ladder and enjoying her reputation at the same time. Since she was in cahoots with the infamous Han Yufan and Mo Euro, she was going to end up with them. Not long after, the opening show was played with vintage music. As the first model to step onto the stage, Tongning immediately became the center of attention. Her professionalism, charm and elegance played a huge role in leading the way for the newcomers. It also allowed the foreign media to witness the limitless charm of an Asian model. As for some of the guests, they even recognized Tongning as the model that had won many awards in France many years ago. They were both shocked and pleasantly surprised. Because, on the runway, Tongning's brilliance was unmatched, dazzling and eye-catching. This was the first time he had watched Tongning walk a show from such a close distance. It was hard to imagine that this model that was the center of attention was actually his wife. Lin Wei-sen was also standing not too far away. TQ's cameraman was also following along the entire time. Every frame and every image was perfect. Everyone was amazed by Tongning's perfect performance. Afterwards, the model made a curtain call and exited the stage perfectly. At this time, Lin Wei-sen also arrived backstage to congratulate Tongning. "You are the best." Tongning smiled and shook Lin Wei-sen's hand politely. "Thank you, Mr. Lin." I'm already looking forward to TQ's October issue. After greeting Lin Wei-sen, Tongning changed back into her clothes with Long Jie's help and left the venue. She couldn't wait to walk the streets of France hand in hand with Lin Wei-sen. However, not long after the show ended, Long Jie received a phone call from Tianyi. It was Han Yufan asking what had happened. As soon as Long Jie looked up the news, the most popular news about Tongning immediately popped up: Tongning PK Mo Euro, full analysis of scheming incidents, and the men behind Tongning. The main content of each news article was about how Tongning and Mo Euro had been pitted against each other and how Mo Euro had been tarnished while Tongning had been able to rise to the top. It wasn't just because Tongning was more ruthless and had more men backing her. One of the posts even cited Star Age, as well as Lin Wei-sen, who was now helping to pull strings for her. Meanwhile, the majority of the netizens still believed in Tongning, especially her fans. They immediately directed passers-by to her runway shows and magazines. She had relied on her own abilities to get to where she was today. But there was also a group of haters who directly admitted that from the start, they felt Tongning's EQ was too high, her IQ was scary and she was too slick, which made people tremble in fear. All this time, the internet was in a bloodbath. Even someone with a high EQ can be tarnished. I have to give up. Long Jie looked at the comments. She was so angry she was about to explode. Tongning looked at the comments and dismissed them with a laugh. After a simple disguise, she and Long Jie entered the car park and boarded Mo Ting's car. I saw the news. Mo Ting said to Tongning before starting the car, "Your fame is getting bigger and bigger, so there will be more and more hidden attacks from all sides. If there is competition, then you will have to resort to underhanded methods. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of course, it's just that this time, Mo Euro has found another opportunity to step on me." Tongning, of course, understood. But, at the same time, she wasn't going to step out and say anything. The more she tried to explain, the more people would think she was trying to cover up. If someone was helping her gain popularity, she would just accept it. This was the cruel reality of the entertainment industry. "Aren't you going to control it?" Long Jie asked. To be exact, she was asking her big boss. However, Mo Ting and Tongning had an agreement beforehand: he wouldn't interfere with Tongning's career. The incident with Han Ruoxue had already broken their agreement, so this time, he had no reason to interfere with his wife's business. "Long Jie, don't forget, my management agency is still Tianyi." Seeing the two were still calm, Long Jie relaxed. "Okay, you guys go have fun. I will keep an eye on things in Beijing." Tongning smiled at Long Jie, gesturing for her to relax. "Help me comfort my fans. Tell them I haven't been affected." Meanwhile, it was almost nightfall in Beijing. Under Han Yufan's coercion, Mo Euro agreed to keep the child. Of course, this was just a stalling tactic. With the sudden news of Tongning being exposed, Mo Euro sat in Han Yufan's office and sneered, "I've said it before. Tongning can't be completely clean. Now that the matter has been exposed, are you going to help her with PR or step on her?" "Shut up," Han Yufan yelled. After the incident with Mo Euro, Han Yufan was more cautious than ever. He had thought about trying to get Tongning back, but when he thought about the CEO of Star Age and Lin Wei-sen, Han Yufan's heart felt like it had been thrown into an icehouse, cold and hard. Mo Euro was disgusting, but wasn't Tongning also disgusting? It seemed, he couldn't place any hope in either woman. "If you don't do PR, I won't be able to resist slandering her. It wasn't easy for me to find an opportunity like this," Mo Euro laughed. Han Yufan did not say a word. Killing Tongning's spirit was a good idea. Afterwards, Mo Euro gave her assistant a phone call, release the information. Back when she was shooting for a magazine in the US, Tongning disobeyed the arrangements of the magazine and was fooling around with an unknown man. Now that news like this has been released, it's no surprise at all. Remember, release the information secretly and don't let anyone find out. Seeing Mo Euro's ugly expression, Han Yufan's heart turned colder and colder. However, he had no idea he was just the pot calling the kettle black. Of course, Mo Euro's slandering of Tongning was understandable. Tongning simply treated it as her last bit of publicity. The annual model award ceremony was just around the corner. Mo Euro was only one step away from falling into the abyss. Chapter 82. Although she had been inexplicably splashed with dirty water and was being torn apart online, Tongning's mood was not affected in the slightest. She changed into a long bohemian dress and sat on a yacht with Mo Ting, who was also dressed in a white suit. All she had on her was her camera, even her phone was left in the hotel drawer. Mo Ting hugged her and looked down at her. He originally thought she would be a little reluctant, but Tongning remained calm. It was like she had completely thrown away her identity as a model. Really? You're not going to return to China immediately? Why should we return immediately? Tongning turned and asked Mo Ting. President Mo, did you think I would give up on the holiday that I made you work so hard for so long because of a small matter like this? My career is important, but right now, you are the most important. Mo Ting looked into Tongning's eyes and placed a kiss on her lips. So, you don't need to feel pressured. Trust me, I can handle it. Mo Ting nodded his head as he hooked his arm around the back of Tongning's head. He couldn't help but deepen the kiss. Right on the beautiful River Seine, the couple left behind a lingering kiss as their figures intertwined with each other. At that moment, there was no big boss of the entertainment industry nor any outdated models. There was simply a husband and wife holding hands as they strolled through the romantic streets of France. Before they knew it, Tongning and Mo Ting had walked past a street and found themselves surrounded by couples kissing. The couple froze for a moment before they looked at each other and smiled. There was no trace of awkwardness in their eyes. This was what it meant to be a husband and wife. Their relationship wasn't spectacular, but it was steady. The couple strolled around for an entire day. By the time they returned to the hotel, not only was Tongning's camera almost full, Mo Ting's hands were also full of his wife's belongings. But, without a doubt, this was the most relaxing moment of his life. He was so happy that it made him dizzy. This was a magical woman. Because of her, life once again seemed to have meaning. That night, Mo Ting hugged Tongning as they lay in the large bathtub. The couple closed their eyes and enjoyed this moment of peace and tranquility. Mo Ting remained silent for quite some time before he finally reached out his hand to stroke Tongning's wet hair and pulled her into his embrace. Let's go back tomorrow. Hair. Tongning's eyes were still drowsy as she let out a confused sound. One day is enough for me. I know what kind of situation you're in right now, but you won't let me get involved. That's why I'm worried about you. Miss Tang, don't you know that I'm your fan? It wasn't easy for Tongning to build her empire. That was why Mo Ting cared. She had walked on thin ice to get to where she was today. She had put in so much effort and energy, he couldn't bear to see her use up all her energy. There's a saying that goes like this: the number of people that like you, the number of people that hate you, the number of people that worship you, the number of people that wait to see you make a fool of yourself. Mo Ting, I know this. After Tongning fell asleep, he finally got up and gave Lu Che a phone call. Have you found out who leaked the information? Lu Che seemed to know Mo Ting would ask, so he immediately replied, Chengtian Entertainment's manager, Yong Jing. Her sister is also a signed model of Chengtian Entertainment and was invited to attend the fashion show. Unfortunately, her opening act was changed to that of a madam. Afterwards, Tianyi Entertainment added in some false reports. Since it's Chengtian, then let's ignore it for now. As for Tianyi, they didn't have much time left. After all, after Tongning signed with Chengtian, she would have plenty of opportunities to teach these arrogant people a lesson. Above all, Tongning's main goal was to completely destroy Mo Yuro and Han Yufan. If she held back now, the other party would have some reservations. Tongning seemed to have guessed that Mo Ting would give Lu Che a phone call because of her, so she wasn't in a deep sleep. As expected, she got up from the bed and wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's waist from behind. Are you not going to listen to anything I say? I just need to get hold of some important information so I can be at ease. Mo Ting smiled. President Mo, I don't think you're tired enough. Tongning said to Mo Ting with a double meaning. Her nimble nose brushed across his back muscles, leaving behind a heart-wrenching sensation as she immediately woke him up. Come on, let's go do some more exercise in bed. 10 p.m. in France, 4 a.m. in Beijing. Han Yufan awoke from his sleep in shock. He angrily jumped out of bed and headed to the guest room. With the help of the moonlight, he could see Mo Yuro lying flat on the bed. But every time he thought about this woman betraying him and lying with another man, his heart would fill with hatred. He was so angry his eyes turned bloodshot. The internet was abuzz with the news of Tongning using a man to get ahead. Now, Mo Euro had been caught red-handed in bed. Han Yufan endured for a moment, but in the end, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He picked up Mo Euro's phone and looked at the message Mr. Lee had sent her. He asked her to keep Han Yufan in check while he tried to think of a way to help her escape. Mo Euro's reply made Han Yufan feel like he was on the verge of breaking down. He actually wants this child. I wonder who he'll look like when he's born. Han Yufan clenched his fists and memorized the phone number. Rather than waiting to be abandoned, used and taken advantage of, he might as well use Mo Euro in exchange for something practical. So, he took the initiative to give Mr. Lee a phone call. Enduring the humiliation in his heart, he said, "I can let Mo Euro go, but I have a condition." Mr. Lee let out a sinister laugh. It was like he already knew what he was going to do. So, he asked calmly, "Go ahead. As long as you are a judge at a modeling competition, as long as Tianyi Entertainment participates, I want an award." Mr. Lee was silent for a moment before laughing. "It's just a mere Mo Euro. Did you think I would agree to something like that, unless..." "Unless what?" "I always thought Tongning was clean and innocent, but it turns out, she's just a lowly woman that uses men to get ahead. Since that's the case, why don't you give her to me to play with? I can give her some practical benefits." "You even want Tongning?" Han Yufan's voice was a little louder and rougher. "Both of these women have betrayed you. Using them in exchange for an important opportunity for you to train new talent, I'm sure it's worth it, right?" Han Yufan's eyes darkened as his maroon pupils revealed a hint of hatred. It turned out, not only did the old man sleep with Mo Euro, he also took advantage of the situation to fall in love with Tongning. The Bright Night Gala was because Mo Ting had some reservations. Now that he found out Tongning had used a man to get ahead, he no longer had any reservations. "Do you agree?" "Words are no proof, we need to sign a contract." Han Yufan was afraid the man would blow him up. "Sure, you can decide on the location." Inside Han Yufan's room, the sounds of Han Yufan talking to other people could be heard. At this time, Mo Euro was leaning against the door and had heard most of the conversation. However, she remained calm. She didn't know Han Yufan had also sold her out, but she heard the word Tongning. Chapter 83. The next day, Han Yufan was not at Tianyi Entertainment's office. By the time he returned to his apartment in the evening, his entire body reeked of alcohol. Mo Euro approached him and gently pushed his shoulder. "Yufan. Yufan." Han Yufan mumbled in his drunken stupor, but it was hard to hear what he was saying. Mo Euro opened his briefcase and found an agreement between Han Yufan and Mr. Lee inside. Mo Euro didn't have time to look at it. She quickly took a photo of it and placed it back in its original place. After a while, Han Yufan opened his eyes. As soon as he saw Mo Euro, he immediately sobered up and pushed her away. "Mo Euro, you are free now. You can beat the child if you want and you can move away at any time. You and I are even now." After speaking, Han Yufan stood up and entered his bedroom. He slammed the door shut with a loud bang. The sound was deafening. Mo Euro stared coldly at Han Yufan's disappearing silhouette before looking down at the contents of the agreement. Han Yufan was the party B. The first condition he agreed to was to set her free and not to cause any trouble for her. The second condition was Tongning. Mo Euro let out a cold laugh. All of a sudden, she wanted to laugh at Han Yufan's naivety. How could that old pervert be so kind? He agreed to give Han Yufan an award because he wanted Tianyi to keep sending newcomers to his bed. Yet, not only did he betray these two women, he even betrayed his future artist. Fine. Tongning was so high and mighty, yet she was sold off by Han Yufan so cheaply. Thinking about it, it was quite satisfying. Plus, she was about to receive the Top 10 Model Award and sign a contract with Creative Century. She also had the old man's weakness in her hands. As long as she could accomplish all these, getting rid of Mr. Lee wouldn't be a problem. "Tongning, this is the man you once loved. He betrayed you without mercy." Mo Yuro's lips curved upwards as she looked down at her stomach. The child could finally be aborted. But these few days weren't the best time to do it. The awards ceremony was just around the corner and everyone was in a tight spot. She had to wait until after the awards ceremony to carry out her secret arrangements. Everything seemed perfect. Who would have thought Mo Yuro would be able to welcome a new life? Not long after nightfall, Tongning's flight landed at Beijing Airport. As her itinerary was kept a secret, not many people knew that Tongning was returning. Meanwhile, the news of her using a man to climb up the social ladder continued to spread. But, as the person in question, Tongning had no intention of showing her face. She had always done things the way she did not even give an explanation. Outside the airport, Lu Che drove the couple home. After leaving the airport separately, they boarded a Lincoln together. "President, Madam, thank you for your hard work. Is the madam really not going to respond to Cheng Tian's news?" Lu Che asked as he sat in the front passenger seat. "Has there been any movement from Mr. Lin?" Tongning lifted her head slightly and asked in a gentle voice. "No, Mr. Lin disdains such gossip the most." Lu Che shook his head. "As for Star Age, they are purposely being ambiguous. They want to create an ambiguous relationship with you to ruin your relationship with Tianyi. From what I know, Star Age is also very close to Tianyi's newcomer, Lan Yu." Tongning let out a gentle laugh and took a deep breath. "In that case, let's not bother with this scandal. When the time is right, the truth will naturally come to light. If someone is defaming you, it means you are in their way and it also means you have a status," Mo Ting said as he hugged Tongning a little tighter. After 9 years of experience, Tongning no longer had a fragile heart that was easily shattered. This level of slander was nothing to her. After all, even more sensational news was about to be released. How could this little revelation of hers be enough for the audience to talk about after dinner? Thinking of this, Tongning turned her head and asked Long Jie, who was browsing through the news, "Is Mo Yuro's child still around?" "Of course, I guarantee." Long Jie quickly nodded her head with an obvious smile in her eyes. "I have been keeping an eye on her. During this period of time, the situation has been quite tense and the award ceremony is just around the corner. Even if she wants to take a risk, it will be after she receives an award." "That's good to hear," Tongning said calmly with a deeper meaning in her eyes. She had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Mo Ting looked at Tongning and suddenly realized his worries were unnecessary. Even so, he still told Lu Che to keep an eye on the aftermath of the incident, the annual model award ceremony. So, he held on to Tongning's right hand tightly and comforted her gently. "Don't worry, you will get what you want. If the entire world is against you, I will defend against the entire world for you." Tongning held on to Mo Ting's warm hand and smiled gently. She knew Mo Ting would do what he said he would. Sitting in the back row, Long Jie watched the couple's display of affection. She realized Tongning only revealed such a gentle expression when she was with Mo Ting. Although she normally smiled at everyone, the feeling she gave off was one of politeness and coldness. When she was angry, she was ruthless. Of course, Lu Che was already used to this. Everyone knew what Mo Ting was like to the outside world. However, when he was with Tongning, he was a gentle and responsible husband. It was like he couldn't wait to give the best things in the world to Tongning. The two of them were like extremes meeting extremes. Over the past 2 days, the entertainment news had been reporting about the award ceremony. However, Tongning was only a guest presenter. Mo Ting looked at her staring at the television in a daze and quickly comforted her. "If I remember correctly, you have received this award a long time ago, so I'm sure you are familiar with this feeling." "That was many years ago." Tongning turned her head and replied. "Plus, at that time, the annual model awards had just been held. The conditions weren't as mature and the value of this award couldn't be compared to what it is today." "Do you still feel regretful?" Mo Ting asked as he massaged Tongning's shoulder. Tongning shook her head and smiled. "Of course not. Although the value of the award is different, look at Mo Yuro, she was still able to use her connections to get this award. This means the award is no longer fair. If it's not fair, what's the use of it? Plus, this award ceremony is my battlefield to take down Mo Yuro. It will be held tomorrow night. I am even more nervous than when I received the award." Mo Ting smiled as he pinched Tang Ning's nose. I won't be attending this award ceremony. But, I am still looking forward to your spectacular performance because it will be broadcast live to the entire nation. Tang Ning nodded her head, stood up and kissed Mo Ting. When have I ever disappointed you? Chapter 84. It was the last day of September and the annual Model Awards ceremony would be held at 7 p.m. that night. As the guest presenter, Tang Ning would walk the red carpet with the famous artist and judge of the top 10 Model Awards, Li Yu. Hearing Long Jie mention Li Yu's name, Tang Ning's first thought was of the middle-aged man with dirty eyes at the Bright Night Gala, Li Yu. How could it be him? Beside her, Long Jie continued to chatter about the things to take note of at the awards ceremony. However, deep down, Tang Ning felt a strong sense of rejection. Long Jie, can you prepare a hidden camera for me? Hidden camera? I don't have such a thing, but I do have a brooch with a recording function. What's wrong with that? This Li Yu is up to no good. Tang Ning lifted her head and looked at Long Jie. The industry has been reporting about him for a long time. Since the organizing committee has arranged for me to attend the ceremony with him, I have to be careful. Okay, I will prepare it for you in a moment. Long Jie quickly regained her senses. She scratched her head in annoyance. Tang Ning, you deserve a more capable and attentive assistant. I have realized, I am only a burden to you. Over the past few years, you have been good to me, I have nothing else to ask for. A smart manager team was always successful, but they might not always be on the same side as her. Long Jie, on the other hand, was perfect. All she needed was a capable manager to take over Mo Ting's work. She didn't want Mo Ting to handle everything himself, it was too tiring. The couple looked at each other and smiled, understanding each other. At this time, Lu Che gave Long Jie a phone call and told her to watch the entertainment news. Long Jie turned on the TV with a confused look. Soon after, she saw Mo Euro being interviewed in front of the camera in high spirits. Mo Euro signs a new contract with Tianyi, ends her relationship with Tianyi. Creative Century's new artist revealed, it really wasn't Tang Ning, it was her. Mo Euro announces high-profile termination of contract with Tianyi, makes a big accounting of the cheating incident with Han Yufan. Seeing this headline, no matter when it happened, one thing was certain, Han Yufan and Mo Euro had completely fallen out. Mo Euro can be proud again, Long Jie scoffed as she shook the remote control in her hand. Can she still be smug tonight? Tang Ning looked at Mo Euro who was being interviewed on television. Towards this woman, she had long lost her patience and sympathy. Now that I think about it, it's really pitiful. He just signed a contract with a new club and is about to fall from such a high position. Mo Euro was in such a rush to make the announcement because she was afraid the baby in her stomach was a hidden bomb. How could Han Yufan tolerate this and willingly let Mo Euro leave Tianyi? Here, I would like to thank two people. The first is the CEO of Tianyi, Mr. Han Yufan, for all his help and protection over the years. The second is my colleague, Tang Ning. Without you, I would not be where I am today. After Mo Euro finished speaking, the artist's director of Creative Century stepped out to help her and played Tai Chi with the media. Our Creative Century has always been dealing with Miss Mo Euro. In regards to the crazy rumors being spread, we would like to express our regret. As for the false reports, we would like to ask the media to differentiate between them. Lastly, we would like to welcome Miss Mo Euro to the Creative Century family. It was obvious what the crazy rumors were referring to. They were referring to the fact that they had been dealing with Tang Ning. Recently, Tang Ning had been trampled on and was surrounded by scandals. On top of that, she had nothing to do with the top model competition, so of course, they had to step out and clear their name. How shameless. Did the people from Creative Century forget about the invitation they sent to our work email? You simply have a little bit of trouble, yet these people are already trying to clear their name. Mo Euro has so many scandals, how could they dare to accept her? That's because, as soon as Mo Euro receives the Top 10 Model Award, no matter how many scandals she has, they will be able to turn the tables. There is no such thing as absolute black and white in the entertainment industry. Tang Ning looked at Mo Euro on television, she watched as she smiled sweetly and answered the media's questions. As long as she could climb up, What was the use of being shameless? Miss Mo, when you thanked Tongning just now, did you mean it? That's right. Everyone knows that you and Tongning have a lot of competition. How do you see the future of the two of you? The people from Creative Century glanced at Mo Euro, reminding her that she needed to think before speaking. If the director hadn't stepped out to distract the media, Mo Euro would have been in the eye of the storm again. Mo Euro froze for a moment before smiling. I am Mo Euro. I don't know how to say beautiful things. I hope the media can stop making things difficult for me. In other words, Tongning's words were all high-sounding. In reality, Tongning didn't face the media often. Most of the time, she was working hard and trying her best to avoid them. However, the haters took advantage of this point and pointed out that Tongning wasn't sincere enough. Mo Euro's honesty was actually quite cute. In that case, are you saying you have backed out of Han Yufan and Tongning's relationship? In that case, do you think Tongning and Han Yufan will ever get back together? Is Tongning refusing to leave Tianyi because she wants to get Han Yufan back? This we will have to ask Tongning to find out. Mo Euro directly pushed the hot topic out of the way and the media silently agreed. Mo Euro's answer seemed to confirm that Tongning still loved Han Yufan and still thought about him. Most importantly, the media speculated that the reason Mo Euro left Tianyi was because Tongning was too ruthless. She was forced to leave. In an instant, Tongning went from a pure and innocent artist to an insincere one. It was like every word Mo Euro and Creative Century said was targeted at Tongning. They were trying to prove how ruthless Tongning was. Tongning didn't continue watching the rest of the interview. After all, no matter what they said, it was all about the same dirty water. Long Jie looked at Tongning's expression and noticed her bright eyes were filled with patience and wisdom. Tongning liked to do this. She liked to defeat her opponent without saying a word. Yet, Mo Euro wanted to fight with her. There was still a distance of 108,000 miles between them. Let's get ready, we are about to head to the awards ceremony. Long Jie reminded as she looked at the quartz watch on her wrist. Don't worry, as for the evidence and connections that can be used to report Mo Euro, I have already prepared everything. Tonight, we just have to wait for a good show. Tongning, let Mo Euro pay you back for everything you've been through. Chapter 85. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of Hai Rui Entertainment, Mo Ting sat on the sofa and turned on the TV. He looked at the time. It was already 6 p.m. and the celebrities had already started to enter the venue. Mo Ting watched as the models competed with each other. Amongst them, there was no lack of artists from his agency, but his gaze did not linger on them. Until Tongning appeared at the head of the red carpet. Dressed in a long red dress, she elegantly held onto the wrist of a 40-year-old man. The man was a well-known scumbag in the entertainment industry. Mo Ting paused the image at the moment Tongning stepped out of the car. His long and narrow eyes carried a deep and profound glow, sharp and frightening. He then called Lu Che over. Give me some information on this man. President, should we warn the madam? No need, she knows what she's doing. Plus, I trust her. I'm just worried that someone will try to harm her behind her back. Mo Ting pressed the remote control to resume the broadcast. As he turned his head, the black mole on his right ear was revealed. It was like a diamond. It was extremely eye-catching. He noticed the unique brooch on Tongning's chest. She didn't have the habit of wearing accessories on her clothes. So, Mo Ting guessed, his wife had already prepared for this. 6:10 p.m. The venue of the annual Model Awards. The stars were dazzling and the spotlights were flashing. Tongning endured the disgust and repulsion in her heart as she hooked onto the artist's arm and stepped onto the red carpet together. This was the first time Tongning had appeared in public since her scandal. She did not seem affected by the rumors. She remained calm and composed with a smile on her face. She was this cold, yet she was holding onto the arm of a jerk that everyone in the industry knew was a jerk. Was she trying to use this opportunity to rise again? The media began to speculate. First there was Star Age, now there was Lin Wei-sen. Was she still not satisfied? The host used an exaggerated and excited tone to introduce Tongning and the artist beside her. Afterwards, The two walked over to the autograph wall for an interview. Miss Tangning, have you been paying attention to the recent news? Do you have any plans to counter the rumors that have been circulating around you? Your classmate, Miss Mo Euro, has already announced that she has signed with Creative Century this afternoon. What is your opinion on this? An insider revealed that you have a big shot backing you. What do you think about this? The reporter's questions were like cannonballs bombarding Tangning without giving her a chance to catch her breath. But Tangning did not panic in the slightest. She simply listened to the reporter's questions and smiled. I am a public figure. In front of society, I have the responsibility to restrain my words and actions. I don't know which word or sentence I say will affect my fans. Perhaps to you, it may only be a word, but to them, it may affect their view of the world. So, I have to be careful. I've seen the netizens' comments, but I feel that they have the right to speak. As for the rumors, I'm sure everyone has the ability to differentiate between them. I also believe that these rumors will not affect my fans. I feel the reason why everyone likes me is because I have something special about me that can move people. The reporters never expected Tangning to respond to their questions. In fact, she responded in such a sincere and flawless manner. Her high EQ was accused of not being sincere, so Tangning used her responsibility as an artist to defend herself. As for the netizens' malicious comments, she responded with the netizens' right to speak and generously respected the truth. As for the comments, she made sure her fans believed her from the start. She even pointed out that her fans weren't superficial, they only liked her because they saw something special about her. The reporters were blocked. They all looked at each other, unsure if they should continue to make things difficult for Tangning. Her heart was already laid bare in front of everyone. If they continued to slander her, it would be too much. So, the reporters decided to keep their mouths shut and take a few more photos. Tangning was successfully let through. Beside her, Mr. Lee looked at Tangning with admiration. This was enough to prove Tangning's EQ and EQ. Even in the entire entertainment industry, it was hard to find someone of her age. Miss Tangning is amazing. Lee Yu stepped onto the stage and reached out his arm to hug Tangning. However, Tangning dodged his hand. Mr. Lee, you're too kind. I wonder if Mr. Han said anything to you? Lee Yu was testing Tangning. Tangning understood what he was trying to say. Although she couldn't guess what kind of verbal agreement it was, she still shook her head cautiously. He didn't say anything to me. Lee Yu wanted to take another step closer, but the host approached the two and said to Tangning, Miss Tangning, your seat has been adjusted. Please follow me. Lee Yu was a little surprised. Tangning was originally booked to sit next to him. Why was her seat changed? Who was going against him? Tangning nodded her head. She knew this was probably Mo Ting's doing. So, she followed behind the host and sat down in her seat. The front row was occupied by the winning models. Tangning sat in the back row. Mo Euro had entered early and secretly placed her gaze on Tangning and Lee Yu. Lee Yu had made his move. Mo Euro sneered. She didn't know why, but Lee Yu was allowed to walk the red carpet with Tangning, yet he couldn't sit next to her. What a shame. Tangning also lifted her head and looked towards Mo Euro's seat. The two of them were sitting in the front row and back row respectively. There was only one seat between them. Today, Tangning was going to present the Top 10 Model Award. In other words, Mo Euro was going to receive the trophy from her hands. But, would she really be able to receive it? In reality, Mo Euro had requested Lee Yu to ask the organizers to make adjustments. She wanted to receive the trophy from Tangning. She wanted to provoke Tangning and make her suffer. She wanted Tangning to know she treated Han Yufan like a treasure, yet she had thrown him away like trash. You've done so much for Tianyi, yet you've become a stepping stone for me. Tangning, in this lifetime, you will only be helping others. The two smiled, they each had their own thoughts. The winner would soon be revealed. On stage, the award ceremony had officially started. The first few awards were not too important, the important ones were left for the climax. As for the Top 10 Model Award, it was nearer to the middle. Let's welcome our guests, the top model, Miss Tangning, and the artist, Mr. Lee Yu, to the stage. Chapter 86. Hearing the host announce her name, Tongning stood up from her seat. In her hands was the list of winners that had been prepared by the organizers. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, she walked elegantly towards the stage. She deliberately avoided Li Yu as the two of them walked onto the stage one after the other. They then stood in front of the huge screen in front of the microphone stand. Below the stage, the stars were shining brightly. All of the hottest models in Beijing were gathered. Because she had the opportunity to stand at the top, Tongning's mind was clearer. As a model, she still had a long way to go. Up close, Mo Yuro's gaze was sharp and proud. Her eyes contained a hint of disdain and mockery. She had been waiting for this day for far too long. She was going to receive a trophy from Tongning. She was going to receive an important award from this woman that competed with her for everything. This was going to be the start of her path to glory. Miss Tang has recently become very popular in Europe and the US because of the Oriental trend. You are a model with great potential. I have high hopes for your professionalism, Li Yu praised as he turned to look at Tongning before he started presenting the award. I hope you can continue to work hard. Thank you, Mr. Li. Tongning was cold and polite. She was completely on guard against Li Yu. You are a miracle. Trust me, you will be lucky. Li Yu gestured to Tongning with a deep meaning, gesturing for her to announce the list of winners. Not only was he fulfilling Mo Yuro's request, he was also showing his respect towards Tongning. Tongning smiled sweetly as she opened the envelope and pulled out the list of winners. The 7th Annual Model Awards Top 10 Model Awards winners are. On the big screen, names and photos of the models appeared one after another, displaying their influential magazines and achievements. Mo Yuro was placed last. From her position, it could be seen that she had pushed someone down and climbed her way up. Amongst her achievements, there was also the cover of the Oriental trend. Everyone below the stage burst into laughter. As soon as the cover was revealed, Mo Yuro's neckline was once again a laughingstock. Tongning was too fresh, while she was merely a backdrop. Under the spotlight, the top 10 models went on stage in order. The 10 hostesses also presented their trophies and bouquets. According to the order, Tongning presented the trophies from left to right. As for Mo Yuro, who was last, her heart almost stopped. She was about to succeed. She was about to succeed. As Tongning's footsteps got closer and closer, her ears were filled with the buzzing sound of applause. Mo Yuro felt her chest tighten and her mind go blank. This huge feeling of joy was like a hurricane. It could topple mountains and overturn seas. Finally, Tongning arrived in front of Mo Yuro. After giving her a gentle smile, she extended her hand. Congratulations. Afterwards, Tongning handed Mo Yuro a bouquet of flowers before handing her the trophy. However, just as Mo Yuro's hand was about to touch the trophy, a young man hurriedly walked onto the stage. He approached Tongning and whispered something to her. Afterwards, Tongning's hands stopped as she pulled back the trophy that Mo Yuro was about to touch. When everyone saw this, they were shocked. What was going on? Why didn't they give out the award? Why did Tongning take back the award? Wasn't Mo Yuro supposed to win the award? Was Tongning jealous that Mo Yuro had won an award and signed with a new club? She couldn't be that stupid, right? Mo Yuro looked at the uproar below the stage. She looked at Tongning angrily and coldly. Tongning, what are you trying to do? Don't you understand what I'm trying to do? This award will not be given to you, Tongning replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her voice was gentle, but her words were firm. Won't be given. Won't be given to you. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them, unsure of what was going on. Most of them looked at the two people on stage like they were watching a good show. What was going on? Just as everyone was confused and Mo Yuro was feeling humiliated, the man that had whispered something to Mo Yuro returned to the stage holding a document in his hand. However, he did not immediately show it to everyone. Instead, he announced in front of everyone, "We have decided to disqualify Mo Yuro from receiving an award." As soon as Mo Yuro heard this, she felt like she had been struck by lightning. What was going on? The trophy was already in her hands. Why was she disqualifying? Subconsciously, Mo Yuro looked at Tongning with hatred as she complained loudly. "Tongning, was it you? Did you do something behind the scenes? What kind of ridiculous award is this? How could it be disqualified just like that? Where are the judges? Mo Euro stood on the stage and vented her anger at everyone. She was in disbelief. The award that she had been longing for so long, the award that she had put in so much effort to receive and the award that she was so close to receiving, was suddenly gone. She couldn't accept it, she couldn't believe it. So, she stretched out her hand and grabbed onto Tongning as she shook her arm. Tongning, did you set me up? Was it you? Tongning allowed Mo Euro to shake her and did not resist. Even when Mo Euro grabbed onto her arm, she did not struggle. It wasn't until Mo Euro tripped on her dress and fell to the ground that no one stepped forward to help her up. She was still in a state of agitation. What do you mean by the annual model awards? You don't have the slightest bit of authority. How could you disqualify me just like that? I want to sue you. I want you to apologize. Apologize. Most of the people below the stage looked at Mo Euro with a playful smile. She was way too arrogant. I want to sue you. Mo Euro's piercing scream echoed throughout the hall. Before Miss Mo sues us, I would like to announce on behalf of the Annual Model Awards. On the big screen behind me, we have clearly stated the rules and standards of the awards. Pregnant models are not allowed to apply for the awards. However, please take a look at the pregnancy report in my hand. It clearly states that Miss Mo Euro was pregnant in July. In other words, even though she knew she was pregnant, she still applied for the top 10 model awards. This type of behavior is called cheating. So, after a discussion, the committee has decided to disqualify Mo Euro from receiving the award and will severely punish the model that has done such a bad thing, the man announced loudly. The man announced loudly, she will be the first model to be blacklisted in the Annual Model Awards. In a moment, we will make a special announcement. In other words, from now on, Miss Mo Euro will no longer need to participate in any activities as a model. An artist with a bad track record like her has no right to lead the public. It was just a few words, but it was like a bomb had been dropped into the crowd, catching everyone off guard. So this was it. Mo Euro was pregnant. Stealing someone else's man and getting pregnant before marriage was bad enough, but she even tried to steal the top 10 model awards. Chapter 87. Isn't she too despicable? Everyone in the industry knows about her previous affair with the CEO of Tiani. I just never imagined she would be so brave as to receive an award while pregnant with a bastard child. The trophy that was in her hands has flown away. What a shame. But, this is perfect. People like her deserve this kind of lesson. Fall from the highest place and kill her. This is a national live broadcast. It's not just embarrassing. The whispers below the stage formed a stark contrast to the scene on stage. Mo Euro stared at Tongning with wide-open eyes. Her eyes were filled with hatred and a deadly chill. She had finally realized the only person that would hate her so much and would do anything to bring her down was Tongning. Only Tongning. Tongning must have known about her pregnancy a long time ago, yet she hid it so well and planned it so flawlessly. Tongning was too tolerant and too cruel. She didn't report Mo Euro when she was flaunting her strength, nor did she retaliate when she was stepping on her. Instead, she chose this kind of occasion, this kind of timing, to make her fall beyond redemption, to make her wish she was dead yet unable to die. What a clever method. Mo Euro covered her face and cried. She had underestimated Tongning. She was filled with regret and pain. How could she not have her guard up against Tongning? Tongning, how could you be so ruthless? Mo Euro squeezed these words out from between her teeth as she tried her best to suppress her anger and sob. Tongning looked at Mo Euro calmly. Her eyes were filled with a silent fire, like she was looking at a joke. Don't you think this is what you deserve? Mo Euro, you are completely out of the game. Mo Euro clenched her teeth as she looked at Tongning. Looking at this woman that was hiding her true colors, Mo Euro suddenly let out a shrill laugh as her body gradually became heavier and heavier. Blood, look, Mo Euro is bleeding. Don't tell me she's having a miscarriage. Oh God, so the pregnancy was real. This is too disgusting. This kind of person stole someone else's fiancé and went around showing off. Serves her right to have a miscarriage. This is the cycle of the heavens. Even the heavens can't stand it anymore. Following the cheers of the guests below the stage, the organizers immediately called for a medical team to carry Mo Euro off the stage on a stretcher. Throughout the entire process, Mo Euro's gaze was fixed on Tongning as she mouthed, "I may be in a bad situation, but you won't be getting off easy either. Tongning, you still don't know you've been sold out by Han Yufan?" Mo Euro thought Tongning would at least reveal a little bit of fear, but she remained calm and unaffected by Mo Euro's expression. Afterwards, Mo Euro let out a bitter laugh. She was right, Tongning had used such a method to completely bring her down, there was no way she would be able to make a comeback. Why would she be afraid of Han Yufan's little tricks? Tongning, you are so scary that it makes one suffocate. This was a small interlude at the awards ceremony. Mo Euro was immediately sent to the hospital that the organizers were working with. In other words, news of Mo Euro's pregnancy and miscarriage had already been made known to the entire nation. Reporters began to arrive one after another. Afterwards, the awards ceremony was put on hold for 20 minutes. After the organizers arranged everything, they resumed presenting the other awards. However, by this time, Tongning had already returned to her seat. Li Yu was sitting on the far left. He watched as he passed through the rows of people and looked at the calm Tongning. A sense of fear began to form in his heart. He had always thought Tongning was at a disadvantage in the battle between Mo Euro and Tongning. But, after the scene just now, Li Yu finally understood, this woman was not someone to be trifled with. It was impossible to know how much she could endure and what kind of resources she had backing her. Now that Mo Euro had been brought down, he could only hope she would keep her mouth shut about the unspoken rules. Otherwise, she couldn't blame him for being ruthless. The awards continued to be presented one after another. After the highest award, the host stood on stage and revealed a mysterious look to everyone. This year, the annual Model Awards have added a special award, called the Special Contribution Award. This award was created by the judges based on the various qualities of the models, especially those that have contributed to the fashion industry. This award was created by anonymous votes from the judges. Next, we will be presenting the Special Contribution Award. Let's welcome our guest presenter, Chengtian Entertainment's CEO, Miss Lan Shi, to the stage to present the award. Below the stage, a wave of applause filled the room. Everyone was filled with curiosity towards this Special Contribution Award. Afterwards, the CEO of Chengtian neatly walked onto the stage and opened the top-secret envelope. Her lips curved into a smile as she said to everyone, "I am truly honored to have been invited to present this award. Up until now, no one knows who the recipient of this award is. As for this person, it is one of the people seated here. Let us congratulate the recipient of the Special Contribution Award, Miss Tongning. Please come on stage to receive your award." Tongning. It was actually Tongning. Everyone looked at Tongning in shock. As for the person in question, she was even more confused than everyone else. Special Contribution Award. Tongning, hurry up and come on stage, they're calling for you. A person beside her gently nudged Tongning. Only then did she return to her senses. She had never expected this. Not only has the cover of a secret redeemed the glory of an established magazine, it has also created a hurricane of Oriental trend in Europe and the US. It has promoted Asian culture and made an outstanding contribution to the spread of culture. According to the largest US news portal, Tongning's Oriental trend has broken many records in the American magazine industry and left her competitors in the dust. Her professional performance and the charm of the Oriental trend has caused foreigners to understand Asia and fall in love with the Oriental trend. So, she deserves this award. On the big screen, the sales figures of Tongning's magazines in Europe and the US were displayed, as well as the foreigners' fascination with the Oriental trend. This caused everyone to fall silent. No matter how famous a model was, they couldn't create such a sensation in the fashion industry like Tongning. Tongning walked onto the stage one step at a time. This was a result she never expected. The Special Contribution Award. She suddenly felt the urge to cry. Especially when the CEO of Chengtian placed the trophy in her hands, she couldn't hold back her tears as they flowed down her face. "Come, give your acceptance speech," Tongning said as she approached the microphone. After quite some time, she finally suppressed her emotions and said, I never expected the committee to present me with this trophy. I feel a little guilty. When I was shooting for the magazine, I never thought about how much I could contribute. I simply wanted to do my job well. Tongning lifted her head and looked in front of her. She wanted the person in front of her to see her more clearly. Because, at this moment, she really wanted to see Mo Ting. There were so many things she wanted to tell him. Chapter 88. Perhaps it was because the couple understood each other after seeing the live broadcast. Mo Ting immediately grabbed his jacket and instructed Lu Che, postpone all of tonight's meetings. Yes, President, Lu Che smiled. Recently, it seemed, Mo Ting had been acting impulsively quite often. For a person that was once so self-controlled, when he acted impulsively, it was quite enviable. Driving his black Rolls-Royce, Mo Ting listened to Tongning's acceptance speech as he drove towards the awards ceremony. He could see through Tongning's desire, he could see it all clearly. This wasn't an important award, but it was the first award Tongning had received since her relaunch. He wanted to stay by her side and acknowledge her hard work. Tongning was dazzling on stage, but she couldn't say the most important part of her acceptance speech. She couldn't thank the most important person in her life. This was her biggest regret. I actually have a lot of things I want to say, but all of them can be summed up in one sentence. Thank you, I will become even stronger. Below the stage, a thunderous applause erupted. Of all the guests present tonight, the Special Contribution Award was the one they were most impressed with. Tongning had truly displayed her role as a model and was a well-deserved role model. It turned out, this was the true climax of the ceremony. Because of Tongning. Finally, the award ceremony came to an end. However, after receiving the Special Contribution Award, Tongning did not leave early. She remained in the audience until the ceremony was over. During this time, it wasn't that Li Yu didn't have thoughts of hitting on Tongning. Especially when she stood on the stage, her dazzling beauty was not something an ordinary model could compare to. But Li Yu knew, the most important thing right now was to go to the hospital and look for Mo Euro. He wanted to make sure their relationship wasn't exposed. The night sky of Beijing had never been so bright as the stars twinkled. As Tongning stepped out of the TV station, she saw Long Jie standing quietly in front of her car. She smiled and quickly ran over to give her a hug. Tongning, congratulations. Honestly, I'm really happy for you. You've worked hard too, Long Jie. Tongning thanked her sincerely. After all, Long Jie had put in a lot of effort to successfully bring down Mo Euro. Let's not talk so much. Big Boss has been waiting for you for a long time. I will bring the trophy back for you, but Big Boss needs to take you out for a spin. Long Jie let go of Tongning and winked at her. Tongning looked down at the man's side profile as her heart raced. With Long Jie's help, she boarded the car. The couple first took Long Jie home. Afterwards, Mo Ting and Tongning sprinted down the road. Tongning's heart was a sea of emotions as she gently leaned her head against Mo Ting's shoulder and intertwined their fingers. You're not going to ask where I'm taking you? I don't mind going anywhere. I'm just curious. Mo Ting, how do you know me better than I know myself? How did you know that the person I wanted to see the most was you? Because we are husband and wife. Tongning smiled as she tightened her grip on Mo Ting's hand. Find a secluded spot and stop the car. Because I really want to kiss you, Tongning said as she looked at Mo Ting's perfect side profile. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds. The corners of Mo Ting's lips curved upwards as he smiled at her. We're here. Tongning looked in front of her and realized they were on top of an unknown mountain. In front of them was the night view of half of Beijing. The stars twinkled like pearls. Don't worry, no one can come here apart from us. Tongning relaxed as she hooked her arms around Mo Ting's neck and kissed him on the lips. She carefully tasted his softness. Mo Ting held onto the back of her head and deepened the kiss. The couple were suddenly locked in an intense kiss until they were both out of breath. Wifey, I've won an award. What reward do you want? Tongning kissed Mo Ting's earlobe and nibbled on his mole. After quite some time, she finally replied, you. I don't care about anything else. Mo Ting chuckled, are you sure we want to do it here and not on a soft bed? I don't want anything. You are enough for me. After hearing this, Mo Ting lowered his seat and pulled Tongning onto his lap. He then closed the car window. His large and gentle palms gently unzipped Tongning's dress from behind. Wherever his fingers touched, her body trembled and Tongning couldn't help but moan. Tongning was still the same old Tongning. But what was different was, tonight, she was extra proactive and extra seductive. This drove Mo Ting crazy and he couldn't help but want more from her body. Wifey, you've really changed. I told you from the start, I'm not a good person, Tongning replied in a lazy and raspy voice. I have too many things I want to do with you and too many things I want to say to you. But, when I see you, I can't say anything because I know you understand me. Mo Ting rubbed his hands against Tongning's smooth back, maintaining their position as he let out a deep laugh. Don't say anything else. I'm taking you home. Otherwise, you won't feel comfortable curled up like this. Okay, Tongning placed another kiss on Mo Ting's throat. Beijing Hospital. It had already been 3 hours since Mo Euro was sent to the operating theater. Creative Century had sent people to stop the reporters from leaving. Meanwhile, Mo Euro's assistant stood by her bedside with a worried expression on her face. Water, water. Hearing Mo Euro's quiet moan, the assistant quickly handed her a glass of water. Be careful. Mo Euro finally woke up. Her eyes looked at the hospital's ceiling blankly. UGE, the award ceremony has already ended, hasn't it? Yes, it's been a while. Don't think too much and get some rest, the assistant comforted. Tongning won. Mo Euro smiled, but tears rolled down her cheeks. Did Tongning win? Euro, don't be like this. I'll go look for President Han. No need. Did you think he would still want to see me? Mo Euro ridiculed as she grabbed onto her assistant's arm. He and that jerk Lee are the same, they are just playing around. Tongning is also a shameless bitch. I don't know what methods she used to receive the Special Contribution Award. As soon as Mo Euro heard Tongning had received an award, she immediately woke up. Received an award. Ha ha ha, received an award. Since the world is so heartless, then they can't blame me. I can't be the only one suffering. After speaking, Mo Euro pointed to her phone. UGE, I have a photo saved on my phone. It's the contract between Han Yufan and Li Yu. Help me expose it and point out that Tongning received the award because Li Yu helped her get in touch with the judges. Since I'm going to die, then let's all die together. Chapter 89. But if you do this, your relationship with Mr. Lee will also be exposed. Euro. I don't agree. Her assistant tried to stop her. Even if we no longer exist in this industry, even if we return to our previous lives, at most it will be a little more difficult and tiring. We don't need to fight to the death. UGE, don't you understand this industry? Mo Euro's eyes were filled with sadness. Did you think if I failed, Lee Yu would let me off? He won't. Don't forget, I have evidence against him. How could he let me off? Rather than that, I might as well take the initiative. You really want to do this? I want Tongning and Han Yufan to die with me. Mo Euro grabbed onto the white bedding, her eyes filled with determination. Her assistant took a deep breath. Towards Mo Euro, she felt helpless. Okay, don't get too worked up. I will go deal with it right now. It was hard to climb up the ranks like Tongning, but if she wanted to destroy herself, wouldn't that be easy? Mo Euro's assistant was afraid Han Yufan and Li Yu would come knocking on her door and threaten her, so she thought of a way to get Mo Euro out of the hospital. Afterwards, the couple found a secluded place and rented a small house. On one hand, her assistant took care of Mo Euro, on the other hand, she contacted a reliable paparazzi to ensure the news she released wouldn't be intercepted by a big company again. Shocking reversal. Tianyi Entertainment falls into an embarrassing situation. Special Contribution Award. Tongning climbs into bed with judge. Deal exposed. Tianyi accused of being the most promiscuous brothel in history. Early the next morning, the scandal between Tianyi Entertainment and the judge broke out in Beijing. The contents of the agreement were revealed. It involved Mo Euro, the newcomers, and of course, Tongning. The media started to speculate that Mo Euro and Tongning received their respective awards because of Judge Lee. They suspected there was some sort of manipulation and that they didn't even have the right to receive an award. In an instant, the entertainment industry was in an uproar. Tianyi Entertainment was scolded for being a promiscuous brothel, Tongning and Mo Euro were scolded for being prostitutes, and Li Yu was scolded for being a prostitute. Netizens attacked Tianyi and Mo Euro. They had always been notorious. But they never imagined Tongning was also like that. Yet, last night, they were so excited for her to receive an award. As a result, their attacks on Tongning were the most severe. They claimed that Tongning was too good at pretending and it was a waste that she wasn't an actor. Seeing the news, Han Yufan was completely enraged as he sat in his office. Only he knew that the only person that had the chance to get close to him and obtain the evidence was Mo Euro. He never imagined that Mo Euro would choose to fight to the death. This time, the news came too fast and too shocking. It was completely different from the rumors in the past. This time, Mo Euro presented him with evidence. It was written in black and white with both parties' signatures. There was no way he could deny it. Tianyi was finished and so were all his years of hard work. His staff immediately handed in their resignations and the higher-ups of Tianyi were in turmoil. Han Yufan knew deep down that as soon as the board of directors held a meeting, he would be kicked out and he would be left with nothing. Mo Euro, you bitch. Han Yufan frantically called Mo Euro and even drove to the hospital to look for her. But Mo Euro had already gone into hiding and he had no chance of finding her. In the end, Han Yufan called Mo Euro's assistant and used his family to threaten him. In the end, Mo Euro grabbed the phone from her assistant's hands. Yufan. Where are you? Mo Euro, you bitch, come out right now. If the Han Yufan of the past was still pretending, then today, he had completely revealed his true nature. Come out right now, otherwise, I will kill you. Kill me. Did you think I would still be afraid after getting to this point? Mo Euro sneered into the phone. Did you think you didn't need to pay a price for selling me out so easily? Han Yufan, thank you for your suspicious personality. By signing this agreement, you have given me the opportunity to grab onto your weaknesses. Whether it's you, Li Yu or Tongning, I want you all to die with me. You're a madman. Crazy. Last night, when I had a miscarriage and was undergoing surgery at the hospital, did you ever think about the fact that I was carrying your child? Did you feel even the slightest bit of guilt? I know you didn't, so don't blame me for not showing mercy. Han Yufan, you deserve to die too. After speaking, Mo Euro hung up the phone. Her pale face carried a sinister and cruel smile. Han Yufan screamed as he smashed everything in the apartment to pieces. If he had not cheated and had chosen to marry Tongning, would the current situation be different? As for Tongning, she did not do anything, yet she had to bear the blame. She had to bear the blame of being a bed climber. Han Yufan was powerless to do anything. On the other hand, Li Yu also avoided answering the questions and couldn't be contacted. Was there a need to explain his actions? The under-the-table manipulations were all true. Tongning and Mo Euro's bed climbing was also true. The media could only guess like this. Hyatt Regency. Tongning sat on the sofa watching TV. As she watched the reports about her, she couldn't help but feel complicated. Mo Ting hugged her tightly, giving her warmth and telling her not to be afraid. Tongning, what should we do now? Long Jie asked worriedly as she watched the news. It seems, Mo Euro was forced into a corner. That's why she decided to die together with you. She can be destroyed, but what about you? You are innocent. You deserved the award, yet you ended up like this. I forced Mo Euro into a corner, but I'm not innocent, Tongning replied in a deep voice. But we can't find Mo Euro, Li Yu hasn't responded and Han Yufan obviously can't handle the situation. The evidence is already on the table, we are too passive. I was too inconsiderate. My journey has been too smooth, so I've forgotten about the pain of falling. Tongning felt a little helpless. Although she had her guard up against Li Yu, she never expected him to team up with Han Yufan. There are only two ways to resolve this situation. 1. We can look for Li Yu or Han Yufan. 2. We can announce our relationship, Mo Ting suggested beside Tongning's ear. Looking for Li Yu is the best option. But, from what I know, The jerk has already snuck out of the country to hide. In that case, we can only look for Han Yufan. Only the two of them will know if there are any verbal promises apart from a contract. 2. I understand. But, if I look for Han Yufan, he won't help me. Who told you to look for him? I'll be the one to look for him, Mo Ting replied in seriousness. Do you think, apart from me, there is a better way to resolve this situation? I won't be doing this as the CEO of Hai Rui, I will simply be doing this as your husband. Chapter 90. However, before I go look for Han Yufan, the first thing you need to do is. In a moment, I will ask Long Jie to accompany me to the police station to file a report. I will also ask my lawyer to release a statement. Tong Ning understood what Mo Ting meant. With the bed-climbing incident becoming more and more vicious, the only thing that could be used as a deterrent was the police. You need to stand your ground. From now on, we will take one step at a time to prove your innocence. Don't be afraid. Mo Ting stroked Tong Ning's hair. No matter what happens, I will be by your side. I know. Tong Ning smiled comfortingly at Mo Ting. Compared to being blacklisted by Star King 3 years ago and falling from a supermodel to rock bottom in one night, this setback was nothing. No matter how low her days were, she had survived. Above all, she now had Mo Ting by her side. Tianyi has gone too far this time. Even the two bed-climbing girls aren't coming out to say anything. It seems the truth is true. Bitch that sold herself. Tong Ning, I am only 17 years old and I want to enter a modeling competition. You have always been my goal, but who would have thought you would do something like this? You are too shameless. Can you get out of the entertainment industry and stop harming the young? Harais, I told you guys a long time ago, Tong Ning is a has-been model. For her to be able to get to where she is today, she must have some tricks up her sleeve. Don't speak nonsense. Tianyi's leaked agreement only mentions Tong Ning's name. I trust her. She definitely hasn't done anything to upset us. Are you a roundworm in Tong Ning's stomach? She has too high of an EQ, that's why she is able to lie to you guys. Grow up, child. Stupid fans should all go die. After Tianyi Entertainment's scandal broke out, the internet was filled with condemnation and abuse. Along the way, passers-by questioned Tong Ning, their words were sharp and vicious. On the other hand, the loyal fans did not dare to say anything in fear of bringing more negative news to Tong Ning. All they could do was laugh a few times, not daring to make a fuss. In the short span of 2 hours after the incident broke out, the words bed climbing were used by people with ulterior motives. They spread an unhealthy video for profit and claimed that it was a video of Tong Ning climbing into a bed. The scandal was getting worse and worse and had a huge impact on Tong Ning's reputation. However, whether it was Tianyi or Li Yu, no one stepped out to clarify or apologize. Their PR abilities were practically negligible. Only the official statement from the annual Model Awards was that they would conduct an internal investigation and give the public an early explanation. Up to this point, those that had worked with her before, or those that were about to work with her, did not step out to speak up for her. Even when it came to topics related to her, they avoided it. In the eyes of most people, they didn't care whether this matter was true or not. You're just a has-been model. What makes you so popular in the US? What right did he have to get the endorsement of a French brand in Asia? Wasn't it just to accompany her in bed? No one would notice your hard work behind the scenes, and no one would want to know how much you had suffered in order to obtain these things. This was the cruel world, especially in the entertainment industry. Popularity was like a double-edged sword. It could help you overcome obstacles, but it could also stab you until you were covered in blood. Under such a bad situation, Lin Wei-sen still called to express his sympathy. This was enough to show that he was a straightforward person. Tong Ning, are you okay? I'm fine. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Tong Ning thanked him apologetically. I'm really sorry for implicating you and TQ. I've always believed that I'm not wrong about you. If there's anything you need my help with, please don't hesitate to ask. Your trust is the biggest help I can give. Tong Ning couldn't help but sigh. Adding icing on the cake wasn't a big deal, but how many people were there to offer timely help? Lin Wei-sen indicated that he wouldn't remove her from the front cover and would wait for her to prove herself to the public. Tongning hung up the phone gratefully and turned to look at Mo Ting, who hadn't even gone to work today. Instead, he was at home with her. The couple's eyes lit up as they understood each other's thoughts. Not long after, Tongning quickly responded by hiring her lawyer to release a statement stating that the incident of her accompanying Li Yu in bed was a complete fabrication and that Tongning had never participated in any unfair competition in the industry. She and Mr. Li Yu were merely acquaintances. She also requested the relevant parties to remove any false rumors, otherwise, we will take legal action. Apart from this, Tongning also hired her lawyer to release her schedule and work schedule for the next 2 weeks. She also mentioned that netizens could search for photos to verify her schedule. As soon as this statement was released, Tongning's fans immediately came to life. They all left comments below the lawyer's statement to show their support. Fans were well aware of their idol's schedule and knew she couldn't possibly be with Li Yu. Apart from work, Tongning was a model that stayed at home all the time. She rarely even attended private events and didn't go shopping or eat with her friends. So, with Tongning's honest statement and release of her schedule, the situation changed to a certain extent. But this was far from enough. At this time, the honest man, Lin Wei-sen, expressed his opinion during an interview. Tongning crawled into my bed? Everyone in the industry knows what kind of person I, Lin Wei-sen, am. I can't stand dirty things. If she was that kind of person, I wouldn't have become friends with her. From the Tongning I've come into contact with, she has a solid foundation in her profession and is thoughtful when dealing with people. She has a cold personality and knows her limits. If she really wanted to do something like that, she would have plenty of resources around her. Why would she go and find a disgusting old man? Don't forget, not too long ago, someone tried to frame her for using the CEO of Hai Rui to create hype. But what happened in the end? The culprit was directly blacklisted by Hai Rui. From this, we can see that Tongning's character is not an issue. As for the contract, I've already looked through it. Everyone has seen how Tianyi has treated Tongning, so I don't need to say anything else. As soon as Lin Wei-sen's words were released, the passers-by who were rebutted were angered. Obviously, they couldn't accept his words and pointed out that Lin Wei-sen was a hypocrite. However, Lin Wei-sen expressed that he didn't care. To be able to speak up for a friend in a situation like this was worth it. Meanwhile, during an interview, the artist's director of Hai Rui asked Tongning for her opinion on the matter. After all, Hai Rui had previously helped Tongning clear her name. Originally, everyone thought the director would ignore the matter. But, with a mysterious smile, he replied generously, "When you look at something, you should never look at the surface. For example, if your name suddenly appeared on a list of suspects, could it be that you are a murderer? Could it be that you are also a victim?" Seeing the news, Tongning was obviously surprised. She turned and looked at the calm Mo Ting. "Did you get Hai Rui to speak up? Even Lin Wei-sen has stepped out to speak up for you. Did you think I would stand by and watch with my heart aching?" Mo Ting placed a kiss on Tongning's forehead. "You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.